People you talking about, they spent money on white women. They set up bars and they went playing pool and golf for $1,000 a hole. And they were known to make millions and millions when there wasn't no high taxes. And they were not hindered by white America. They were allowed to see the white America has completely closed all the doors on me. I'm not allowed to work in America, out of America. I was stopped right in my prime just when I started making money. So you can't compare me with nobody like Joe Lewis or nobody.
If you are black, if you are brown, if you are indigenous, and if you are poor, this system is rigged and it is rotten to the core, and we gonna unbreak it. That's it. And that's all.
That other kind of socialism that revolutionizes the workplace, brings democracy to the workplace for the first time.
So that's one way. And then the other thing is, in my more optimistic days, he's such a perfect endpoint of everything that is toxic and dysfunctional about the United States, about capitalism, about the 80s, that maybe this is the final sort of disgusting burst before we evolve or change to something better.
Fortified. Are you fortified for the long run? Do you have your cemetery clothes on? Are you coffin ready to live and die for something bigger than you, like a fundamental transformation of a capitalist civilization?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Radical Democracy Show. I'm your host, Kamali Rose. This is episode number 24 of the Radical Democracy Show. Today is November 30th, 2020, in the year of somebody's Lord. Not mine, that's for damn show. I like to follow the human era calendar, so I should introduce it as February. February. Where the hell did I? Whoa, where I just jumped like 3 months here. I wish I do. I just want to zoom into out of 2020 for all of our sake. But November 30th, 12,020, if we want to go off of the human era calendar. So that is from, if we mark it based on, human civilization, it gives us a better perspective of how long we've been at this thing. Say in 2,000 years, like, makes it sound like we've only been here. Humans only been around for 2,000 years. Now we've been here, in human civilizations for or at least 12,000 years now. And so I think it gives us a better perspective. So we should start using the human era calendar here. So November 30th, 12,020, y'all. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Got a great episode ahead. I say that, but I'm not so sure. But no, we got a lot of topics we want to cover today. I'm not going to do what I did to y'all last time and have a really rugged episode like last time. So what we're going to do this time, I want to cover all of Biden's picks at some point. But what I'm realizing is that these people are so they're histories, they go so deep. Like, I do the research and I'm like, all right, I see them, I know them, it's gross, I want to talk about this. And then I start to dig a little deeper. I'm like, oh, it just gets worse. And I want to put all this information in there. And before long, I'm like, I need to do a separate episode for each one of these horrendous picks so that we can really do a deep dive. And I wish I had the time for that, but unfortunately, we just ain't making enough money on this show yet to do that. So please help support the show. First thing you can do, absolutely free, just hit that like button down below. Smash that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. You'll definitely want to do that because we've got nothing but awesome content coming in. We're going to be ramping up our content. Now we're doing a lot of content pre-election, election kind of just, hit me in my chest because it was just a drain. It was exhausting, the election, all that. It was just exhausting. So, recuperating from that, and we're going to start to produce more content. Actually been starting to gear up to start reaching out to some folks to bring some folks on as guests on the show. So super excited about that. And we'll have more information about that as that starts to materialize. So yes, please hit the like button right down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And big favor I ask is for everyone watching, all of us, all my comrades out there, to please share this video out. We need to share it on social media. Got to start growing the channel. And I need your help to do so because I suck at social media. And so I need you to use all of your platforms to try to help grow the channel because we need to grow. All right. So let's and please, if you can afford to do so, we definitely ask, and I'm going to ask throughout the show, so just brace yourself. I will ask throughout the show for folks that are just popping in. Please support the show. Support independent Black left media. Support independent media in general, but we're independent Black left media here, and we need your support. We just don't have the mass corporate backing of all of these advertisers and such. And so we need your support, grassroots support. That's the only way that we can build the show. So please, if you can afford to do so, and only if you can afford to do so, do not, strain yourself or anything like that. But we do appreciate every single dollar. For as low as $1, you can support the show on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/radical democracy. Links are in the description box below. Just open up that description box, click that link, and please drop us a few dollars if you can afford to do so. We deeply appreciate it. Shout out to all of our Ko-fi community, to everyone that's shifted over from Patreon to Ko-fi, because as we, inform folks and we try to be as transparent as possible, the funds get more directly to us through Ko-fi than they do through Patreon. Patreon takes more of a cut. So if you would like to more directly support the show, you can definitely head over to Ko-fi and support us that way. Big shout out to everyone that's moved over. Tammy, Brian, X, thank you so much to everyone for shifting over to Ko-fi so far. And for everyone that supports on Ko-fi as well. I believe FL is also a monthly subscriber now as well. So shout out to FL for subscribing. I'm still figuring out the Ko-fi platform, so sometimes it's not clear to me who signs up for a monthly recurring and who doesn't. Whatever. But thank you so much, FL. And FL has given a ton, has donated a ton. So just big shout out to FL for all the support. And a shout out to the anonymous comrade that tipped us $20 as well. We deeply appreciate that. So please do, if you can afford to do so, head over and support us as well. You can also support us if you're already on Patreon. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/radical patreon.com/radical democracy. Links are also in the description box there as well. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who supports us in any way, shape, or form. Deeply appreciate it. Even if you can't financially support and you just support us by sharing this out, thank you so much. I need to do better about tweeting out whenever we go live. My super producer maybe can drop a tweet out there into the Twitter sphere to let folks know that we're live. Like to start a Facebook page for the channel and start to, branch out into Facebook, but we're looking into some help for that. So maybe we can use some of our funding for that for sure. So get some help with some social media campaigns and the like. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to some news. Before we do so, I'm gonna take a sip of something real quick. I'm gonna do an ASMR channel. I'm gonna just change this thing to an ASMR channel soon. Y'all just hear me, listen to me drinking stuff and what? And rolling weed. Tammy says rolling weed. Oh, that would be a dope. I'll do that for y'all. I got y'all. I am the world's finest roller. I just want to say nobody can roll like me. Like, we could do a competition here. We can host the Radical Democracy weed rolling competition. I will smoke all of y'all, pun intended. All right, let's get to some news here. So what I'm going to do today is I queued up a few stories for some of the Biden picks, but honestly, I'm going to just like we tried to do this last episode, I just didn't feel great going in because I was just like, you know what? I don't feel 100% on these. And I feel like it goes so deep. I still only feel like I'm 50% on this stuff. The thing is, I'm new to politics as well. So it's easier when I do a clip and I do a segment and it's about some topic that I'm well versed in. These people are like, these are just little swamp things that pop up and they use the revolving doors of Congress and, big like consultancy agencies. And this is really, the segment I want to do. I want to just show this sort of revolving door policy in Washington, D.C. and why that's so detrimental and how they use that and how it's so corrupting. So I'm going to try to get through some of these, but if I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling some of them, we just won't do them. I'm going to try to do some. We'll do as many as we can, but I got some other stories I want to get to. And those stories I feel, much more confident in presenting those stories. So we'll just skip around and we'll do whatever we feel comfortable with. And that's what we're going to do. And that's what it is. And that's what it's all about. All right. All right. Okay. Let's do some democratizing. All right. All right. Let's go. First story up. Let's see. So, and just a shout out. Let me give a shout out to Brian Dew from our Discord community. Brian and I have been having a nice, healthy, vigorous debate. Both on the last episode, we started the debate. We carried it over into our Discord server. You can get access to our Discord server by signing up on Coffee or Patreon for $5 a month or more. You will get access to our Discord server, and you can see those debates going on. And so, thank you to Brian for engaging in that debate. Still, the debate is still not done. Brian, I still want to get back to you about the issue of backsliding and how we prevent backsliding in a socialist economy, and why I believe that we won't backslide into capitalism once we actually achieve, mass socialism. Yeah, we'll get into that. TLDR, it's pretty much because I think that, look at history, we haven't backslid really. Once we got out of feudalism, we didn't backslide. We didn't backslide from capitalism into feudalism. We had the vote. We could have democratically got together and voted to return to feudalism. We didn't. From feudalism into slavery. They didn't backslide into feudalism. Then from slavery to capitalism, we didn't backslide into slavery because people aren't going to democratically get together and be like, hey, let's go back to slavery. Let's some of us be slaves, and we're totally cool with that. And for those similar reasons, I don't think that once people have tasted real democracy in the workplace, that they will ever want to go back to the alternative. And I don't see really any examples of it happening where companies have gotten to that point and then, or on a larger scale, like look at Mondragon, they've not backslid into capitalism. You ask them, they're not all happy with everything that goes on in those businesses, in those worker cooperatives. But they also say, there was an interview recently that I watched where they were like, yeah, but I don't want to go back to the capitalism. Like, that's not the solution to all of our problems. We just need more democracy. So anywho, I don't want to carry this on right now. Hopefully we can pick it up at the end of the show. All right, 15 minutes in, I really want to get to these stories. So we're going to get to some stories, but I just want to give a shout out to Brian for that, very invigorating debate. Appreciate it, deeply appreciate it. Got to see through that, members of our community, Brian Dew getting published in Jacobin. So he just dropped that, just a little humble brag, just a little slide in my little article in Jacobin that you can read right here. So Brian Dew getting shout outs from Paul Krugman, the neoliberal economist, but economist nonetheless, and well-known economist. I've actually watched a debate on Democracy Now! Between Richard Wolff and Paul Krugman. That's a good debate. And so, yeah, all right, let's get to it, y'all. If you have any thoughts, please, throughout the show, just share them in the comments and we will get to all the comments. So what up America? I see you out there. Good to see you, buddy. Always appreciate you, comrade. Okay. I swear I'm not lying. We're gonna get to this. So we're gonna start with the Biden picks that I feel most comfortable, most confident talking about, and then we'll just run through, see how we feel about it, see how we're feeling about it. And then if it's not looking good, because the point, so we're doing these live episodes. And so when we do the live episodes, this is really like, we don't get a ton of outside folks in here. It's usually our main community. And then it's really, once we cut them up into clips, that more people see those clips. I understand people don't got the time to watch a very long podcast. I get it. I totally get it. I'm one of those people. And so when we do this, I need to make sure that we're getting good clips out of these episodes. And so if I'm not feeling like it's a good clip and that it's not, coming together well, then I'll just drop it and we'll just move on to the next topic and we'll come back to it later. Because I promise you, I want to cover all of this material. This is extremely important stuff. This is the time to criticize Biden. I want to use my platform to do what I can. Obviously, I don't have a large platform right now. When I have a larger platform, I will always try to be more aware of that and try to use this platform as a force for good. I'm trying to use this platform as a force for good already, but unfortunately just don't have a wide reach as of yet. But we are working on that. We are growing every day. And if you subscribe right now, if you're not already subscribed, you can help us grow right now. Okay. We're going to get to some news here, folks. I promise. All right. What Up America says, you got heavy competition on the rolling front, my dude. You got this. Yes. I like it. We're going to make this happen. We'll see about that. I mean, I roll the perfect blunts, joints, whatever you got, whatever you want. I got it in the dark, behind my back. Whatevs, I got it. All right, so I roll better than my dad, and that dude's like an 80-year-old Rastafarian, and I roll for my dad when I'm in Jamaica, because I'm smooth like that, y'all. I'm smooth like that. All right, so for our first story, let's see. So we'll start it with the lighter stuff, I suppose. One of the least worst pick of Biden's cabinet thus far, I suppose, the least worst, because they've all just been terrible, just ghoulish. Pretty much. So the theme of the Biden cabinet is essentially, my last episode was titled "Diversity Meets Destruction," and that's how I feel about these people. They're shrouded in this cloak of diversity every time. I mean, I'm getting so sick of the media coverage of the Biden picks, because whenever I read an article about the Joe Biden picks right now, the whole article is about how diverse the picks are. They don't say anything about their ideology. Like, they all share the same capitalist, neoliberal, garbage ideology, centrist, center to center right at best ideology. And they don't talk about how there's no diversity of ideology whatsoever, no diversity of, no class diversity whatsoever. So there's no class diversity, but there's some racial diversity. There's some gender diversity. And so we're supposed to fawn over that. Oh, Joe Biden, he picked an all-female communications team. He picked the first woman this, the first black this. I don't give a flying fizzuck about their race, gender, if they're terrible human beings that did terrible stuff, or they're just more neoliberal centrist garbage that's going to give us more of the same that got us to Trump in the first place. Like, I don't care about if they're the first woman, the first black woman to hold, the torturer in chief position. It's like, get out of here. Like, anywho, that's how the news is covering the Biden picks. And so I just saw in the comments, Mark McKeever, I see you. Mark McKeever said, I saw Tim Black gave you a shout out on one of his videos. Congratulations. That is so fucking dope. And if you could please let me know which video that is, because I will absolutely 100% be cutting up a clip of that, Mark. So if you could find that, it's so good to have you back, by the way, Mark. We haven't seen you commenting in a while. I know you're always, lurking there. And so it's always love to see you, Mark. Appreciate the comment. That is so dope. If you know which video it is, if you remember anything that the video was about, please let me know. And because I would love to find that clip and cut it up and maybe use it as an intro to the show or something like that. So that would be so dope. Let me know, Mark, because I want to know what did he say? What was the shout out? Like, I saw that he also tweeted out one of my last stream, which was my worst stream ever. And he tweets it out. He also saw the video that he commented on. I once did a video about him, but I uploaded the wrong video. I uploaded a shorter version of the video that didn't have my commentary after his speech at the People's Convention. And he saw that one. He saw that video. So he's seen all the worst things that I do. Tim Black sees all the worst of me. So it's just my luck. I just have the worst luck. So thanks for letting me know that, Mark. Please, if you find it or if you know anything else about it, let me know. And because I'd love to find it and find that clip. That is awesome. Dope. Maybe it's the older stuff. Could be that as well, but cool. That's awesome. Thank you, Mark, for saying that. And thank you to Tim Black I deeply appreciate that, brother. I thank you so much for using your platform to help another black leftist out like that, another independent black leftist. Deeply appreciate that, brother. Nothing but love. Just love what he does and the work that he does. That's why I'm happy. I'm proud to work for him, with him, doing full disclosure for anyone that doesn't know, all y'all know by now, I'm a content editor for Tim Black, for the Tim Black Show. So I edit clips of his videos for them to post to Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. All right. Okay. Let's get into some of these Biden picks. Like I said, the theme of this, the Biden picks is that they're diverse, but the reality behind it that I really want to expose is that it's more of the swamp. It's more swamp. Now let's be clear. Trump had a swamp too. Trump brought in his like chief economic advisor was Gary Cohn from Goldman Sachs. His Treasury Secretary was Steve Mnuchin from Goldman Sachs, the dude that was named as one of the arbiters of the 2008 housing crisis. So these people that Trump picked, they were a swamp. He said that he was going to drain the swamp. Trump didn't drain any damn swamp. He just brought in a new flavor of swamp. That's all. And that's what we're seeing with the Biden picks. It's more of the same. It's more of what it was. It's Obama 2.0 essentially. And the problem is we know what Obama led to. So let's before we go, okay. So I see. Thank you for the clip, Mark. Maybe I'll play the clip at some point or something. I'll pull the clip up. And maybe we'll play that clip at some point because I would like to. I wish I could. It's like they won't let me copy that text. All right, so I have to go to the actual thing to get the text. All right.
It's a video from yesterday.
Oh shoot, it's a video from yesterday. Wait. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm like, whoa. Was I supposed to edit something that I didn't edit?
No.
All right. So we'll check that out. All right. All right. Nice. Okay. Nice. Yeah. All right. Dope. Nice. All right. Okay. Let's get to it. So first up on the Biden picks that I would like to cover, let's talk about Janet Yellen. So I hope that is Brian in here? Brian, if you're in here, drop a comment. Let me know that you're in here because I'd love to have Brian in here for this conversation. I know he's a, you know, he has some opinions on Janet Yellen and would love to get his thoughts on this as we talk about it. So, all right, let's talk about Janet Yellen first. So Janet Yellen has been nominated by Joe Biden to be his Treasury Secretary. So Janet Yellen is former chair of the Federal Reserve under Barack Obama. Of course, she was there, you know, through the housing crisis and, you know, so this is, you know, again, this Biden's cabinet is shaping up to be the Obama 2.0 cabinet. And I don't think that's a good thing. If you're on the left, I don't think that that's something that we should be celebrating for sure. I think that while Janet Yellen, some of these people aren't horrible people. Like they're not like total monsters like some of the Trump people. Like what's that dude's name? Steven. How the hell am I forgetting his name? No, not Mnuchin. The racist, xenophobic, white nationalist. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm forgetting. How am I blanking on this dude's name? Stephen Miller. Yeah, Stephen Miller. So Stephen Miller, it's not like they're like these monsters, these absolute monsters like Stephen Miller. Like they're not overtly racist, right? They're just like covertly racist, covertly, you know, sort of nationalist or jingoistic or imperialist. They're imperialists, really, right? So that's it. It's for the defense and intelligence picks. They're all like these you know, imperialist sort of folks. And for the sort of economic picks for Biden, they're neoliberals. They believe in the capital, you know, they're champions of capitalism. They're always so shocked. Oh, how did this crash happen? How did this crash of capitalism happen? Oh me, oh my. Nobody could have saw it coming, even though capitalism has literally there's been an economic downturn in capitalism every 4 to 7 years on average, everywhere that capitalism has ever existed for the last 200 to 300 years, every 4 to 7 years on average. Just think about it in recent history. We've had 3 crashes since the turn of the century, right? We've had the 2000 dot-com bubble, right? In 2000, we had the dot-com bubble. In 2008, in 2009, we had the housing recession, right? The recession. And then we had the 2020 COVID crash or the COVID depression. And that is, add that up. That's 3 in the past 20 years since the turn of the century. That's 3 since 2000. That's just shy of every 7-year average. So, and it's not like, I mean, I've been saying this stuff and I'm no genius, but I've been saying this because I've just been parroting folks like Richard Wolff who continue to scream this from the top of their lungs, that this is this is the instability that capitalism produces. But we're just, we're getting more of these people that are, they are pro-capitalist, they are neoliberal, and they've existed in a time where they've continued to be pushed to the right, and they feel pressure from the right and feel pressure to move to the right. So these are people that were neoliberal centrists to begin with, and then they're constantly, folding under the pressure to move right, to shift right, cut taxes, cut spending, in order to cut deficits, they want to cut taxes, but then they also want to cut spending of social programs. So, all right, let me just fix that because I got a little, I won't call it OCD, but a little something that, it'd be tripping me up. Let me just fix. Okay. All right. So we're gonna get into this. I want to get some sort of an idea of who Janet Yellen is and what what we can expect from her as the Treasury Secretary. I'd like to bring in an old classmate of Janet Yellen's. So I would like to hear from her old classmate. I saw one of her former classmates from Yale, when she got her PhD in economics from Yale University, and one of her classmates there has spoken out. Hopefully someday friend of the show. Richard Wolff was recently was being interviewed on Status Coup by Jordan Sheridan on Status Coup. And he talked about Janet Yellen in the interview. And I thought that it was a great, sort of analysis and prediction of what we can expect from Janet Yellen. And this is my issue with these folks. And I started saying it before. These aren't bad people per se. Like, I don't think Janet Yellen is a bad person. I'm not saying that Janet Yellen is a bad person. These aren't bad people per se. They just have a bad ideology. They just have an ideology that's wrong and has been proven wrong historically over and over again. And yet, no matter how often and how loudly they're wrong, they always seem to be able to maintain, as long as they're wrong in favor of the capitalist class, then they can be wrong all they want and their reputations are sustained and they're allowed to keep their jobs and keep going. And they don't get enough criticism for being constantly wrong about this stuff. So let's take a look and take a listen to Janet Yellen's classmate, Richard Wolff, economist Richard Wolff, talking again on a Status Coup interview recently about Janet Yellen and, kind of what he expects from her in her role as Treasury Secretary. Let's take a look and then we will come back and discuss.
And what I find so maddening is really all I've heard from Biden is we should pass the HEROES Act. And there are some good things in there, but for the level of crisis we're in, all the things you just talked about, to me, the HEROES Act is kind of a Band-Aid for a gunshot wound. It is totally insufficient. And that's the most he's talking about, when in reality, it looks like we'll probably have Republicans keeping the Senate. So they're just going to do what they did in 2009-10, obstruct and then blame the tanking economy on the sitting president and the sitting party. So it seems to me like the rescue choppers are not coming if we're to look at Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary and the rest of the people that Biden is appointing.
Well, let me speak for a moment, if I may. Janet Yellen and I were classmates.
Okay.
We went to Yale at the same time, roughly a couple years apart. We had the same professors at Yale. We got the same degree, PhD, from Yale in economics. I know exactly how she was trained because I was trained the same way. I know exactly what the teachers taught her because that's what they taught me. She is a classic American liberal who has grown up in a world of right-wing pressures on liberals to become less liberal. And she wasn't all that liberal to begin with. So she's become less. She's married to another economics professor with a PhD, just like herself and me. I know who these people are. They are so far removed from a grasp of what this economy has meant to people that it's unfair to them to imagine that they would do anything other than a Band-Aid for a gunshot wound. That's who they are. They didn't see any of this. They were writing articles and books, which, by the way, I had to read, about the efficiency of a globalization. And the idea that there were masses of people whose lives were shaken to the core by all that has happened in the last 30, 40 years. I mean, I've had, not with them in particular, but I've had arguments with that kind of person because many of them are my personal friends. I went to school with them. I grew up with them. I know this sounds harsh, but they're nice people, by the way. These are not bad people. It's not bad, but they don't really get what's going on. They live in a textbook of economic manipulation. The Federal Reserve will pump money in and lower interest rates, and the Treasury will run a deficit, and that's how you did. Mr. Trump did the most extreme version under Trump and Mnuchin and the others and Powell. They pumped more money in than you could shake a stick at. They dropped interest rates to virtually zero, which hadn't been done before. They ran trillions of dollars of budgetary deficit when there was no war. I mean, everything that those liberals say you should do, kind of, they did. Not exactly the way the liberals would. They had their politics. They didn't give money to cities and states, which are why they're in such trouble now. But, adjusting for a few of these details, what are they going to do that's all that different? They're going to have budgetary deficits. They'll give it to the cities and states in a way that the Trump did. But again, if you don't transform things, you're not going to get out of this disaster. I find it ironic that they will say things like, you really have to do something about the COVID because this was an inadequate, or to use your metaphor, the way the United States dealt with COVID was a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. They see it there, but when it comes to economics, no, they don't see it. They never did, and there's no reason to expect suddenly that there will be a shift. Now, I know, one last point, I know a few people, particularly progressive.
Okay, so there we had Dr. Richard Wolff just letting us know a little bit about, his take on Janet Yellen there. And as you heard, he is a former classmate of her at Yale. He says he got the same education in economics that she was given. So he has a very clear understanding of exactly what she learned, how she learned it, who she learned it from. And, he was taught the same things. He just had a different, ideology, different perspective on life from his upbringing, which he gets into all the time, and from sort of a working class background, of course. And he took a different, he took a different track in life, but he got that same education as them. And so he understands why they think the way that they think, really. And he still talks to these people. He says he goes to dinner with these people all the time. They are in the same circles. They move in the same circles. So he knows these people. He's like, these are friends of mine. And so they're not bad people. He's not saying, listen, these are horrible monsters. These are awful, evil, villains or anything like that. It's nothing like that. That's not the problem here. The problem is that they're just more of the same at best. At best, they're more of the same. At worst, it's corruption. We'll look at some of his picks that are just downright corrupt. Janet Yellen she's not corrupt. She's just corrupted by a neoliberal ideology, but she's not corrupt in the sense of like taking bribes or using her position for or a status to enrich herself personally necessarily. Like she's not one of those types or anything like that. So I don't, it's not, she's, as far as Biden picks go, like I said, she's the least worst of the Biden picks so far, but still, even the least worst person that I could find, and she'll be the first woman Treasury Secretary in the history of the United States. I don't care. It's like there are other women that I will take as, again, we talked about last time. I take Stephanie Kelton as a Treasury Secretary, to be honest. I take Elizabeth Warren. As much as I can't, I can't stand Elizabeth Warren. It's an okay position for her. I think that she'd be fine there. That's what she's meant to do. Like Elizabeth Warren, purely on economic, on fiscal policy, essentially. I would say, so let me think. Yes, that's fiscal policy, I believe. Monetary policy, that's the Fed there, is what handles monetary policy. Brian, if Brian were here, he would correct me if I were wrong here. Brian, feel free if you're listening to this at any point, correct me if I'm wrong there. Drop a comment, let me know. But she's not a terrible person or anything like that, but she just, they don't get what's going on. These people are so out of touch. They're so out of touch. They're surrounded by these other, PMC, professional managerial class type folks, these academic, elites who are, feel like they're smarter than everybody, better than everybody, should be the deciders and the shapers of society. But they're so out of touch with how their policies impact everyday average working class people. They couldn't see. He talked about like globalization, how these people were all champions for it. They wrote articles championing, saying how great it's going to be. And they didn't see what it was going to do to workers, how it was going to damage workers, all these free trade agreements. They didn't see. They couldn't predict that those free trade agreements were going to hurt workers. Why ideology is so important to me, and I want to make this point clear. The reason that ideology is so important to me in picking a staff like this is because ideology dictates how you're going to respond in the moment, right? I can look at your past. I can, of course, look at your past and look at your record, which we absolutely should examine. And when you examine the records of these people, you see they're just run-of-the-mill neoliberal, capitalist, neoliberal, folks there, and some can even be maybe labeled neoconservatives as well. But, neoliberal at best folks here. And the problem is that when you have that ideology, it determines how you're going to respond in, say, crisis situations. And let's be real, we're facing a crisis. There is an economic crisis. We're in the midst of it right now, but it is only going to worsen. We have all of these eviction moratoriums are coming due at this point. Like, we had all those eviction moratoriums, but that doesn't stop the fact that those rents are going to become due. Those are going to come due. It wasn't like you got rent forgiveness. It wasn't rent forgiveness. It was simply a moratorium that said you don't have to pay this month, but that's stacking up and that's going to be owed. And those landlords are going to be coming for their money. And when you can't pay and these people aren't going to be able to pay, there's going to be mass evictions. And I'll tell you which communities they're going to hit the hardest. It's going to be indigenous, Black, Latino communities that are going to get hit, the first and hit the hardest. So, yeah, it's like, these folks have been, they're out of touch. There's a disconnect between them and what's really going on. And their ideology is so important to me because that just, to me, tells me and informs me as to how they're going to respond to the things that come up as the presidency, goes on for the next 4 years. I don't know which crises we're going to face. There might be something worse on, around the bend that we're not aware of. But already, I mean, we're talking about having to stave off an economic depression. The last time that, Janet Yellen was in power, she was in the Fed. They gave all this, they gave money away. They dropped interest rates. And Richard Wolff talked about that, how these people the Trump administration essentially did. They did typical, pretty standard neoliberal. They had neoliberal economic policies. Let's be real. They did all the things that the neoliberals say you got to do, right? You got to deficit spend, right? Deficit spending, lower interest rates, right? Lower interest rates, and pump money in, right? Pump money in from the Fed, right? Pump money in to markets from the Fed, and lower those interest rates and deficit spend, right? And those are all like neoliberal, policies, and the Trump administration just did those things, at mass scale, and not exactly the same way. Like Richard Wolff said here, it's not exactly the same. They didn't give enough funding to cities and states. The Democrats would have given the funding to cities and states. That is better. It's better, but it's just, again, tinkering around the edges, and it's not what we're facing. We're facing existential crises, and what we need are existential responses. We need responses that meet the moment. And unfortunately, these people, they don't have ideologies that suggest that they're going to bring forth policies that will meet the moment up ahead. So that's why we need to criticize them now, because if we can criticize them now, maybe we can get better people in there, more progressive people in there. I doubt it, strongly doubt it, but we should at least not just let him off the hook and ignore the swamp that he's building here. So he's filling up the swamp. It's just a diverse swamp is all. Anything else here? Again, I mentioned before, but these folks are, I think Brian Dew had made a comment before about how, relative to what Biden could have put in there, he could have put in the CEO of Goldman Sachs, right? And that's a real thing that he could have done. I'm glad he didn't do that, but I don't think it's the left's job to go celebrating the fact that he didn't put in a worser, pick. That's not our job. We can't set the bar so low for these politicians that we're happy or we feel any relief from them putting in somebody that's still antithetical to our ideology, to a left ideology. So we shouldn't celebrate these picks. We should be critical of these picks. And even somebody like Janet Yellen that's not horrendous is not good enough for me. And I want to make sure that we call that out. All right. Cool. Next up, let's see. We're going to try to do a couple more of these picks. So I'm going to try to go through a few more of these picks and we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. Again, like I said, for all the rest of these, I'm like, I really want to cover them. They are all the rest of the picks. They're worse. They're worse than Janet Yellen. All the rest of the picks are far worse than Janet Yellen. And it's just that as soon as you start diving into them, it just gets worse and worse and worse. All right. So to anyone that hasn't done so already, please do me a favor and hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And please, please, please share this video out. I need you to hit the share button and just tweet it out. It'll put the title in there and everything for you. Just tweet the damn thing out for me and let the world know that we're out here. We're doing this damn thing. And we need to grow the channel. That's how we're gonna grow the channel. So please, need your support, comrades. Make that happen. All right. So let's take a look-see at our next story here. Trying to find. All right. Okay. For the next. Okay. Give me one sec, folks. All right. All right. Just queuing up a video here for us. Sorry about that. All right. So for the next Biden picks that we're going to discuss, let's talk about there were two picks that I think we kind of have to discuss in tandem here. And so Biden's and please, before we get into that, just to anyone watching that isn't already signed up and is can afford to do so, please support the show. Coffee.com/radical democracy, links in the description box below. You can support the show for as low as $1 a month, and we need your support. We absolutely need your support. Please, 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 if you can afford to do so, make it happen. We deeply appreciate it. Okay. So let's get to this next story. Okay, before we do, let's take a couple comments. Mark McKeever says, I've said it before, Biden is a Republican that McConnell will walk all over. 2022 and 2024 seem to be a bust already. I totally agree with you. Biden is a Republican. I mean, Barack Obama said that he governed as a moderate Republican, and Joe Biden is to the right of Obama. So the idea that he's not a Republican is, honestly, if George Bush ran as a Democrat, I think that liberals would be celebrating right now. Like Ellen would be clapping and dancing with them, and they would, if it were George Bush, but running as a Democrat, I honestly think these people would be celebrating George Bush at this stage. So Biden, he's the same. I mean, he championed the Iraq war. Tell me the big differences between Joe Biden and George Bush. Seriously, try to do that. Because George Bush wasn't like some sort of terrible xenophobe or anything like that. Remember, he came out, he defended Muslim people. He said, Islam is not our enemy. We have these specific enemies. And he had some decent rhetoric around that. He just was out there murdering by the hundreds of thousands brown people over in the Middle East and Asia and in Africa, in shadow wars in Africa as well. But yes, Biden is absolutely a Republican, and he is absolutely going to get walked all over by Mitch McConnell. I highly doubt that they are going to pick up the seats in Georgia. In the last Georgia election, I think the last time there was a runoff, they ended up losing by like I don't know, it was like 10 points or something after going to a runoff, which means it was super close, right? Once they got to the runoff election, when they ran in the general, it was super close. Then they got to the runoff, and the Republican put major distance between them and the Democrat, because the Democrats didn't come out to vote. And I honestly, if that happens again, you can go ahead and you can blame the liberals that made all this hoopla about how bad Trump is, and it's all Trump, and we got to get Trump. We got to get rid of Trump. Trump's the only threat. He's the unique danger. Okay, well, now they got Trump out. Don't expect these people to be so enthusiastic about coming out to vote at this point. You just told them for the last 4 years that it's all Trump, and Trump is the worst thing, and you just got to get Trump out. And once we get Trump out, then we can regroup and we'll think about other things. And don't worry, we just got to get Trump out because he's a really unique threat to democracy. Okay, well, all that hyping up that you did, it has now set the stage for people to just sort of go out to brunch. All these liberals are going to be out to brunch on the Georgia election day. I highly, I hope I'm wrong, because I prefer a democratically controlled Senate, so that there's no excuse for the Biden administration, but it's gearing up to give him a built-in excuse. I mean, he already did not support these policies, Green New Deal, Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage. He didn't really support these policies, any kind of like student debt cancellation. He didn't really support these policies. And now you give him an excuse, a built-in excuse to say, oh, sorry, look, we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it, y'all. The Republicans, they obstructed, and we know how good they are at obstructing, and we know how good the Democrats are at feigning as if they are resisting that obstruction while really, giving into it at every turn, because it's what they prefer. They don't want anything to change. They're fine with the system being the way that it is because it's the system that got them to where they are, right? This same system, under the same system, it got them, it got Joe Biden into power. That's all he gives a damn about. So absolutely, McConnell will walk all over him. And I wholeheartedly expect the Democrats to lose the House in 2022. I believe that the Democrats are going to lose the freaking House in 2000. They just lost 5 seats in the House while Joe Biden just won the election. And remember, lest we forget, remember what they said about Bernie Sanders? Let us not forget. They told us that Bernie was going to be so bad for the down ballot candidates, y'all. You can't put a socialist at the top of the ticket, folks, because if you put Bernie at the top of the ticket, it's going to harm all the down ballot candidates. Well, how did all the progressives win all of their races? Everybody that endorsed Medicare for all, every single one of those people won their races. It was all the centrist and the blue dog Democrats. Those are the ones who lost seats in this past election. It was all of those folks that lost seats. So if Joe Biden and his centrist ideas are so good, are so great, and they're so helpful to the down ballot candidates, then please, oh, please tell me, why in the world did Democrats lose 5 seats at the same time that Joe Biden won the election? How did they manage to lose 5 seats in the House? So, and not pick up the Senate? So I was told that Bernie would be the one that caused that damage. Well, sorry, but it turns out, just like we saw under Obama, which no surprise there, we lost 1,100 legislative seats under Obama. It is no surprise to me that we've already lost, a handful in Congress and a bunch more around the country. So in state legislatures. So let us not forget the scare tactic they tried to use against Bernie. That really turned around to be true of Joe Biden. And look, you don't see any articles talking about this. Nothing from the mainstream media talking about how Joe Biden was bad for down ballot candidates and how maybe centrist neoliberal policies are maybe bad for down ballot candidates. You know what they said instead? Defund the police is what caused those people to lose. Defund the police is what these people that don't support those policies. Those are slogans that are created by the grassroots. These politicians don't control those slogans. They don't control that. They have no control over that. They don't support that stuff or endorse that stuff. I wish they did. I truly wish they did. I deeply wish that they did. They don't support this stuff. The idea that that's what lost them seats, it's a joke. It's pathetic. It is pathetic. Especially considering that we had majority support for the Black Lives Matter movement at the peak of the protests back in July and August. So support for BLM has never been higher. All right. Of course, it went down after that. After people started, Joe Biden jumped in and started to blame the protesters for violence instead of blaming the cops that were the ones that are actually dictating violence out there. But anywho, let me get to more of these stories. I don't want to take too much of our time up tonight. I do want to get through all these stories. So great comment. Totally agree. 2022 and 2024 are going to be a bust for Democrats, but they don't have to be a bust for the left. I think that we can start movements and build movements, and we have to get serious now and start to look outside of the Democratic Party. Yes, I said it. We need to start to build power outside of the Democratic Party. I believe that we need a movement for a People's Party. I will support the People's Party. I will be reaching out to some of the People's Party, folks to try to bring them onto the show to have some discussions with them, and really look forward to those discussions. But I do wholeheartedly support the movement for a People's Party, and will try to highlight that as much as I can and advocate for that, because I think it's how we can build some power on the left. And look at it as how the Working Families Party works. Y'all, please understand how a third party can work, and that you can still put the Democratic nominee technically up under under a third party, and you can still vote for them under a third party. That's how the Working Families Party works in New York. Check out how the Working Families Party works. We can absolutely do something like that. Don't be afraid. Don't let them use the fair tactics that they try to use to scare you out of doing what needs to be done in order to build strength on the left and to actually win elections and to win our demands, to make sure that these politicians bend to our demands instead of constantly having to bend to theirs. All right, taking a sip, and then we'll hit the next story. All right, let's do this. So next up, see what we're going to talk about next here. Okay, so for our next story, I'd like to talk about another one of Joe Biden's hashtag girl boss picks, the diversity swamp picks. And this is Avril Haines Avril Haines is being selected to head the Department of National Intelligence. And I would like to take a look at two articles. We're going to take a look at two different articles, and we're going to take a look at how this pick is covered in mainstream media versus how this pick is covered in left media. All right. And I just want you to see the differences and get a visceral feel for how our mainstream media, how pathetic of a job they do. All right. So we're going to take a look at two articles. Like I said, the first is going to be from CNN. The second will be from Common Dreams, written by Medea Benjamin from Code Pink. So we'll take a look at those two articles. All right. First up is going to be the CNN article first. We'll take a look at CNN first. We'll let them do their thing first, and then we will take a look at the left perspective on Avril Haines. All right. So this is a woman being selected. She would be the first woman selected or the first woman to run the Department of National Intelligence. All right. Or the DNI as they call it. All right. So one sec while we pull this up here. Okay, So this is an opinion piece in CNN, but published on CNN by Samantha Vinograd, and this was published on November 24th, 2020. It's titled, Avril Haines' appointment will make America and the world safer. Okay? So let's take a look at what they have to say. And just an editor's note here so that you can see that this isn't just some random opinion piece here. I think that it's important to note that Samantha Vinograd, this is an editor's note put here. So an opinion piece. Let's see who Samantha Vinograd is. Samantha Vinograd is a CNN national security analyst. So this is a national security analyst. She should know what she's talking about, right? This is somebody that covers this for a living, okay? She covers national security for a living, all right? I'm just some bum on YouTube. She covers this stuff for a living on CNN, all right? She's a senior advisor at the University of Delaware's Biden Institute, which is not affiliated with the Biden campaign, okay? Vinograd served on President Barack Obama's National Security Council from 2009 to 2013 and at the Treasury Department under President George W. Bush, okay? So this is the way these people work. It's like goes from George W. Bush's administration into Barack Obama's administration, from Treasury Department under George Bush to National Security under Barack Obama, all right? So let's take a look at what Samantha Vinograd has to say. Let's see her analysis of Avril Haines, okay? For almost 4 years, President Donald Trump has trashed the American intelligence community. I'm reading from the article here. He's appointed political acolytes to top national security jobs, pilloried expert analysis, and polluted intelligence with his personal politics. But with President-elect Joe Biden's nomination of Avril Haines as Director of National Intelligence, we will soon have a reliable expert leading our intelligence community. Okay? Oh, it touches the heart. Okay, so you can see a picture of Samantha Vinograd there, you know. White women supporting white women out here. All right, so Vinograd continues, I know Haines. When I was a staffer at the White House National Security Council during President Barack Obama's administration, she and I were often two of the last people left on the White House compound each night. As the National Security Council's top lawyer, Haines worked seemingly nonstop to advise the National Security Advisor and the president on legal considerations associated with national security decisions. Working beside her for several years, I saw the intellect, focus, leadership, and dedication she brought to national security policymaking. Her incredible background, including her love of science, flying planes, and brown belt in judo, may read like a movie script, but it's real. So she's talking about her incredible background. We're going to talk about her incredible background soon from a left perspective, all right? But I just want you to really put a pin in this right here, right? It says, her incredible background, including her love of science. I don't know what the hell that means to a National Security Council. Why do I care about her love of science? Love of science, flying planes, and brown belt in judo. What the fuck does that have to do with being the director of national intelligence? The fact that you're a fucking brown belt in judo or you fly planes. Jesus. Okay, I'll try to get through this. Later, the article continues, later, when she served as deputy assistant to the president and deputy counsel to the president for national security advisor, and then as the deputy director of the CIA, so many of our former colleagues, including many of us women, knew the skill set she brought to bear. Let me correct that. So many of our former colleagues, including many of us white women, knew the skill set she brought to bear. Sorry, that's not what the article actually says, but we know damn well that's what it means. Knew the skill set she brought to bear. After serving as the first female deputy director of the CIA. Oh, yay! We get hashtag girl boss coup. Hashtag lady coup. Hashtag coochie. Yo, I want that. Yo, can somebody hashtag that? I feel like I'm motherfucking John Oliver up in this. Like we need to get that hashtag trending. Hashtag coochie. All right. So after serving as the first female deputy director of the CIA, she is the first ever female nominee for the director of national intelligence job. But it's not only her gender that makes her nomination remarkable. It's what, if confirmed, she could do in her new role. Under Trump, the DNI has become grossly politicized. Richard Grenell, the former ambassador to Germany, who served a stint as acting director at DNI this year, was a right-wing political force before, during, and after his time. Was a right-wing political force before, during, and after his time. Current DNI John Radcliffe has painted himself into a similar politicized box, seemingly serving more as a political surrogate for the Trump administration than the leader of an integrated and apolitical intelligence community. Apolitical intelligence community. These people, she was the deputy director of the CIA. These assholes go all around the world committing coups in black and brown countries, all over the world, but they're somehow apolitical. These neoliberals are somehow painted as apolitical. Kiss my ass. They are not apolitical. All right, I got to get through it. She goes on to say about the Trump appointees, their actions are a disgrace to the role of the DNI, which rests on providing apolitical, objective, and unbiased intelligence to their customers. Customers. I didn't know that we needed customers for the DNI. The DNI has customers? Who's paying these assholes? Like, who are their customers? All right. So All right. So Haines could not be any more different. And I promise we'll go on to the other article soon because I can barely, contain myself through this one. Haines could not be any more different. Among her other accomplishments, she's a skilled lawyer, a physicist, and has been described by a colleague as someone who, quote, may quite literally be the nicest person any of us have ever met, end quote. Just again, you got to put a pin in this, all right? May quite literally be the nicest person any of us have ever met. I can confirm that kindness and her overwhelming drive to always get the best information. Oh my gosh. In the time that I worked with her, I never once heard her mention politics or party or anything of that sort. Instead, she showed up prepared with copious notes at each and every meeting. She wanted to help inform policy decisions, not play politics or try to get herself into the public spotlight. I never once heard her tell a policymaker what she thought they wanted to hear, further confirming what she said in her remarks on Tuesday, that she, quote, never shied away from speaking truth to power. That's why the intelligence community needs her more than ever. Okay. All right. That's all I can bear there. Let's take a look at the left-wing framing, the actual analysis of her beyond brown belt, loves science, likes to play with puppies. Okay. Let's see who she really is, what her record really is. All right. So I'm going to take a look at an article. This is from an article in Common Dreams. And this is this is an article by Brett Wilkins, but he's going to reference Code Pink co-founder Medea Benjamin and Nicholas Davies, noting some of her actual record here. So let's take a look at that. Please excuse the little advertising stuff that's going to be on here when we do this. Okay, this is from a November 23rd article published in Common Dreams, and it's titled #Feminism, Not Militarism. Peace groups blast Biden's DNI pick over links to drones, torture, and mass surveillance. All right. So she's linked to drones, torture, mass surveillance. But don't worry, folks. She's the nicest person you ever met. Okay? So Code Pink co-founder Medea Benjamin and Nicholas J.S. Davies recently noted that Avril Haines, quote, provided legal cover for CIA torture and, quote, worked closely, end quote, on the Obama administration's expanded drone policy. Okay? So she provided legal cover for torture and worked closely on the expanding the drone policy. But she's the nicest person you've ever met, okay? Look at her just yucking it up, okay? This is her in the middle, the woman in the middle here, standing up there. So that's Susan Rice that you're seeing next to her. And, of course, Barack Obama there. All right. So reading from this article, peace activists on Monday sounded the alarm over President-elect Joe Biden's pick for Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, citing her role in drone strike policy during Barack Obama's presidency and covering up torture perpetrated by members of the George W. Bush administration. Haines, as former deputy national security advisor and former deputy CIA director, worked closely with Obama and former CIA director John Brennan as the administration dramatically increased drone strikes. Quoting from, this is a quote from Code Pink, the statement that Code Pink put out, they said, quote, appointing a woman to be the director of national intelligence does not justify, atone, or excuse the U.S. intelligence community's murderous drone strikes and violent counterterrorism strategies. Code Pink is a women's rights and activism of, a feminist group, women's group. They put on the Women's March and when after Trump was elected. So that's what they're sort of most known for. Continuing on in this article, CIA Director Gina Haspel, as the New York Times noted, will report to Haines. So CIA Director Gina Haspel is another late hashtag girl boss who was named in the cables about she was named as one of the people responsible for the torture in Abu Ghraib. Okay. That's who Gina Haspel is. All right. And she was one of the few people that was explicitly named. And she was responsible for covering up the torture program under the George Bush administration. So that's who Gina Haspel is. But, we got ladies in here, hashtag feminism. All right, so Haspel had a role supervising the CIA's torture program, and Haines supported President Donald Trump's nomination of the agency chief in 2018. So Avril Haines supported Gina Haspel, Trump's pick to run the CIA. She supported that in 2018. She was supportive of Donald Trump picking Gina Haspel. So these people, they're all part of the same circles. They're all the same damn thing, all right? And this is who Joe Biden is putting in power. There's been no real pushback. This is the only, there's been no significant pushback against Avril Haines. She is still moving forward full steam ahead. There are other picks we're going to talk about tonight that have at least, they've had to pull back a little bit on. They have not pulled back an inch on Avril Haines because enough people just aren't speaking out about this. So, anywho, as the Daily Beast reported in July, Haines approved an, quote, accountability board that spared CIA personnel reprisal for spying on the Senate's torture investigators and was part of the team that redacted their landmark report. Okay, so that's who Haines is. After the administration ended, Haines supported Gina Haspel for CIA director, someone directly implicated in CIA torture, a decision that remains raw amongst progressive activists. Until late June, she consulted for the Trump favorite data firm Palantir, which emerged from the CIA. All right, so Haines' nomination drew praise from Senator Bob Menendez, the ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, who said he was, quote, incredibly pleased by the pick, adding it sends, quote, a clear message of hope and support for American values to the world in choosing candidates who possess the qualifications, the demeanor, and the temperament to serve in leadership positions. To anyone who's not familiar with who Senator Bob Menendez is, that dude was in jail 2 years ago. He literally just got out of jail for corruption. He was literally in this country where we have legalized bribery and you are allowed to legally bribe a politician. This fucking moron somehow still managed to get caught and arrested and convicted for corruption in this, a system that literally allows legal corruption. This moron still somehow was so damn corrupt and he's a Democrat. Okay, this is a Democrat from New Jersey. He is so damn corrupt that his ass went to jail for his corruption. Okay, he popped out of jail and then won his goddamn seat back because that's the fucking system that we live under. Okay, as long as you got enough money, it don't matter if you literally just got out of jail for corruption. You can still get your damn seat back in Congress. So this asshole, that's who's supporting her here. These are the people that are supporting her. Other centrist Democrats expressed similar sentiments. This is from Representative Susan Delbene or Delbene. I don't know. These people I never heard of this person. So Representative Susan Delbene says, and that's what they like. They like us to never hear about them because they just like to fly under the radar where we don't see them. We don't see all the terrible stuff that they're doing. Anywho, Representative Susan Delbene says, government should represent the people it serves. I'm excited the Biden-Harris admin is building an experienced team by nominating Alejandro Mayorkas as the first Latino DHS secretary, Avril Haines as the first female intelligence chief, and Linda Thomas Greenfield as UN ambassador. That's a black woman. Another one, Abigail Spanberger says, congratulations to Avril Haines on her nomination for Director of National Intelligence! Haines is the experienced, crisis-tested leader we need leading the intelligence community. Politicians, press, and pundits took to Twitter to say that Haines is a really nice person. Zev Carlin Newman says, get yourself a DNI who is a brown belt in judo, built a plane, married her flying instructor, flew across the Atlantic, became a bookstore owner / community activist, nerds out on treaties, and is the nicest human alive. The nicest human alive that supported torture and drone strikes. Yes, that's the nicest person alive. Literally pull any fucking person off the street and they're a nicer person than the drone strike CIA torture backer. Like, get the miss me with this nonsense, people, please. All right. Okay. So, peace and digital rights advocates. Haines also worked as a consultant for the surveillance state and deportation enabling tech firm Palantir Technologies. Had a decidedly different take on her selection. So those peace and digital rights advocates had a decidedly different take on her selection. Under the hashtag feminism not militarism, the women-led peace group Code Pink tweeted that, quote, appointing a woman to be the director of national intelligence. Okay, we read this quote earlier. Appointing a woman to be the director of national intelligence does not justify, atone, or excuse the U.S. intelligence community's murderous drone strikes and violent counterterrorism strategies. In a Common Dreams op-ed earlier this month, Code Pink co-founder Medea Benjamin and co-author Nicholas Davies noted that, quote, Haines provided legal cover and worked closely with Obama and CIA Director John Brennan on Obama's tenfold expansion of drone killings. But she's the nicest person alive, y'all. Benjamin and Davies wrote that Haines taking a prominent position in the Biden administration would be just one more troubling failure to reorient U.S. foreign policy away from past mistakes. All right. So let's all right. So I think that's enough of that. I think you guys got a good. All right, so I think that gives you a good picture of who Avril Haines is, but also, more importantly, how she's covered in the mainstream media and by centrists and liberals, how the liberals respond to these sorts of picks. These are all the people that, again, we knew where they were going to be, out to goddamn brunch, and they're already out to damn brunch. I've seen on Twitter, I should have pulled up some examples of people saying, like, guys, just give Joe Biden a chance. He hasn't even been inaugurated. Give him a chance. Dude, are you kidding me? This is he's working right now. He's staffing his cabinet right now. When the hell is the right? They told us just wait till Trump is done. Wait till we defeat Trump. You got to wait till we defeat Trump. You can't help Trump win the election, right? Well, Trump has lost the election. That is absolutely clear. Trump has lost the election. He will leave or be removed from office. He ain't sticking around. There will be no coup. Trump's going. He's already said that he will, once the Electoral College certifies the vote, then he will willingly, voluntarily leave the office. All right. So Trump's gonna be gone, right? We're done with Trump. We beat Trump, right? Trump's over. Trump has been beaten, right? He's been defeated. Okay. Now what? Now what's their excuse? We're not helping Trump win anymore. So we should be allowed to criticize Biden, shouldn't we? No. They tell you, don't criticize him now, folks. Give him a chance. He hasn't even started his job, and then once inauguration rolls around, what are they gonna say? He just got inaugurated, folks. Give him some time. How long is that going to last? 3 months, 6 months, a year? They'll still be saying, guys, give him some time. Oh, wait, we're dealing with an economic depression that Donald Trump created. You got to give us some time to get out of this crisis. And then wait, midterms are coming up, y'all. You can't criticize Biden and in the horrible centrist anymore, because you're gonna damage the midterm elections. You're gonna get Republicans elected. We're gonna lose the House, guys. You can't criticize Biden. So you can't criticize him for the first year. You're not going to be able to criticize him for the second year, because those midterms are coming up. Once those midterms are over, what are they going to say then? We all know they'll have their excuses, okay? They will continue to produce these new excuses of what reasons why we can't. Oh, it's going to be Donald Trump is threatening to run in 2024, y'all. You can't help him. You can't help him anymore, all right? It's 2022. You can't help Donald Trump win in 2024, so we can't criticize Biden anymore. They're going to use it for attack ads. You can't do it, guys. So no matter what, they'll always find a reason. It always ends the same way. You can't criticize these terrible people, right? We always know how it ends. All right. So, okay, let's keep cruising. Do we have it? Should I keep cruising? Okay. Tammy says, why are none of my hashtag coochie comments on Twitch showing up in the StreamYard live chat? Shaking my head. Censorship. I'm pulling the coochie card. No, I want you to spell it. Hashtag COUPCHIE. Coochie. It's a coo. They're coochie. It's coochie. Yes, they're coochies. Okay, so it got to be spelled hashtag. I want to see hashtag COUP hashtag coochie. That's what I'm talking about. Hashtag coochie. So yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, Thanatos. Yes, coochie. Hashtag coochie. So that's how we're gonna be celebrating feminists, coup supporters. I'm sorry to even call them feminists. They're not. They're women coup supporters, because these people, they don't care about actual working class or poor women, or the women that they're drone bombing over in the Middle East. They don't give a fuck about those women, right? All these liberals, they're not concerned about those women. Like, those are the fucking women. That's the women that I'm concerned about. Those are the women that I'm in solidarity with. It's the poor, it's the working class women here in this country and all around the world. Those are the women that I give a fuck about. Not about some wealthy neoliberal, neoconservative elite who's been in the George Bush administration. Like, I'm supposed to give a fuck about some Bush administration lackey getting a job in the Biden administration, and whoever's fucking celebrating this, like, it's so pathetic. It's so pathetic that you would celebrate these garbage picks like that. Tammy says they emphasized her brown belt to try and appeal to the brown community. LOL. That's their outreach. That's their outreach to the brown community right there. They're like, she's got a brown belt, y'all. That's great. Thank you. That was a great comment. Hashtag cultured. Yes. Tammy says, please specify it's quote white feminism. That's feminism that perpetuates and enables white supremacy, pretty much. You don't even got to be white to be one. Yes, absolutely. I need to make that clear. That is white feminism that's being referred to there. That's that feminism that we saw even during the suffrage movement, right? I'm reading this book right now, this great book. I'm gonna do a piece on this. I'm actually trying to have this author on my on the show, so I hope that we can get this author on the show. The book is called Angry Black Girl, and it's by Alexis Giandi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize, Alexis, if I'm not pronouncing that right. I've never heard it said out loud. So it's Alexis Giandi or Giandi, I think maybe. So I'll go with Giandi for now. So Alexis Giande, it's a collection of essays on race, gender, and America. And she talks about this in the book, actually, about the suffrage movement. She taught me about some of the history of that. And, you know, there's some quotes from some of those people, like Susan B. Anthony. Whew, the racist shit that Susan B. Anthony said. Like, can I find this quote up in here? Maybe, like, oh boy, it was just like, yeah, I gotta find. I'll try to find it for y'all for next time. Yeah, I'll try to find it for next time. Oh, okay. Yeah, she talks about all right. I'll okay. Susan B. Anthony said, quote, so she quotes Susan B. Anthony here, and it's like, Susan B. Anthony was in on it too. Quote, I will cut off this right arm of mine before I will ever work or demand the ballot for the Negro and not the woman. And she just says, like, notice how this statement effectively erased Black women from the conversation. Like, you know, she's talking about, you know, I will cut off my right arm, you know, before I fight for, you know, the ballot for the Negro before the woman. What about Negro women? You know, what about Black women? But that's what white feminism is all about. It's about erasing those Black, brown, indigenous people, the Black, brown, indigenous women, simply uplifting white women and promoting the betterment of white women and white supremacy, you know, and that's a white supremacist ideology there, white feminism. So got plenty of those in the liberal, you know, plenty of white feminist liberals. They are, you know, they're all out there. All right. So we're at 1.5 hours here. Let me let's keep going. Yeah, I wanted to cover, I saw that I was watching, I forget what, maybe the Vanguard, and I saw while I was watching this clip, they were interviewing Patrick Cote, Pat the Burner, formerly Pat the Burner. Now I think he goes by Pat the Progressive on Twitter. And news had broken then about Nara Tanden, and well, yeah. So I want to cover that Nara Tanden pick. I think that she's being floated for the Office of Management and Budget. I mean, Nara Tanden is I just saw, by the way, I saw What Up America's comment there. So What Up America said, I saw someone his last comment. Yeah. So What Up America says, I saw someone saying folks really hate Nara, and it is just misogyny showing. So he's referring to Nara Tanden then there. And yeah, Nara Tanden is, you know, she ran like the Center for American Progress, which is like this neoliberal think tank that was big. I mean, she is a Hillary stan. They run propaganda for the Democratic Party and for the neoliberal ideology. And these people are just terrible, awful. Nara Tanden is actually like a terrible person. Like, she's an awful person. She's just a bad person. She's an awful human being. And not like evil, awful. She's just a terrible person. And, you know, she's just a propagandist for you know, she carries water for the neoliberal establishment, and it's really gross. And she's a brown woman, so they will hide behind her identity and be like, "Oh, you're racist and misogynist if you criticize Nara Tanden." And it's like, no, she's a garbage. Her record is you know, and what she's done and what she supported it's garbage. It's garbage. And we don't gotta like be misogynist in order to point that out. And simply pointing that out does not make you a misogynist. All right. So, all right. Let's see. I want to get some other clips done. What Up America says, I saw someone saying, quote, folks really hate. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Something just jumped on my screen and I thought it. Okay. What Up America also said, I will literally eat my hat if establishment Dems showed a single ounce of personal accountability. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They will not show any form of accountability. They will have this revolving door, and all the same things will continue, and we are going to get more of the same for a long time. come in there. If you want to check out some of Alexis Giande's stuff, it's over. Our producer Tammy dropped in the chat, so you can hit the links in the chat, and you can see her. She's got a YouTube channel, pretty big YouTube channel. You know, she's on Twitter, and you can also find her at intellectual.co, lectual with an X, Lexual. So intellectual.co is her personal website as well. Okay, next up, let's see. Okay, so I want to cover next up. I would like to cover. So there were two more intelligence picks that I'd like to cover here. There was Tony Blinken, or Antony Blinken. Tony Blinken is what he's known by around DC. Tony Blinken was nominated by Joe Biden to be his Secretary of State, and Michele Flournoy has been floated as the Secretary of Defense. And these are where the picks really start to get really abhorrent. I mean, no, Avril Haines was really abhorrent. This is just more of the same, pretty much. So let's take a look at these picks and see some of the criticism against these picks, and just talk about that maybe a bit. Again, I keep on, you know, every time I dig a little deeper and do this research on these picks, it just keeps going. Like their record, they've been in politics for so long. They have extensive records in it's not good stuff. So I just keep peeling back layers, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go layer deeper. So I feel like I'm never done with this, and I'm gonna want to come back and do another segment on this. But let's see what we can do, see what we can pull off for this segment. And we'll just roll from there. We'll go from there. All right. So let's see. Let's start with. Okay, since this one gets referenced, actually. Okay, so we're going to watch two clips from Democracy Now! Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! Interviewed Medea Benjamin, who we just saw opposing the pick for Avril Haines. She's from Code Pink, one of the founders of Code Pink, Medea Benjamin. We're going to hear from her first. She's being interviewed by Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! And then we're also going to watch a clip after that. We'll see a clip from where Amy Goodman is interviewing Barbara Ransby and David Sirota, and talking about the picks of Michele Flournoy as well as Tony Blinken. And we may watch one other clip because some news broke about them yesterday, I believe it was, or maybe earlier today, or yesterday, some more news broke on them. And so I want to bring that clip in as well. That's going to be from Sagar and Jetty, actually, from the Hill. So we're going to bring a right winger onto the, into this program here to give us some information, because that's where you got to go, apparently, because people don't want to talk about it. Liberals don't want to talk about it. So we got to get somebody that's willing to talk about it. All right. First up, we're going to hear from Medea Benjamin on this pick of Michele Flournoy. So Michele Flournoy has been floated for the Secretary of Defense position. Michele Flournoy and Tony Blinken are both partners at a firm called West Exec Advisors. So West Exec Advisors, that's a reference. West Executive Ave, I believe it's called, is a street that runs alongside the White House. And the reference is essentially trying to tell people, like, it's referencing like, hey, we were that close. One, I think it's the road that might run along the side of the White House where the Situation Room is, I believe. So, but it's like, it's trying to indicate their closeness to the Situation Room and to like the foreign policy in the White House, right? That they've already been close to those positions, and also the fact that it's supposed to indicate that, hey, we'll be back there. We'll be going back down West Exec Ave again soon, and we'll be back in power soon. So, these consultancy agencies, they consult with firms that are like part of the military industrial complex. And so Michele Flournoy and Tony Blinken, two, members that are for, national security sort of picks in the Biden administration, they have they got out of politics, and when they left the Obama White House, they went over and they cashed in on their former status and used their former status to cash in on that. So we'll take a look and let's hear from Medea Benjamin, and then we'll come back and we'll chat a bit, and then we'll take a look at a few more clips here. So, all right.
To Democracy Now! In a moment, we're going to talk about President-elect Biden's picks. This is a person who has not yet been named. Extremely important position, the Secretary of Defense. Can you talk about your concerns and what's going on behind the scenes, both in the grassroots community and among progressive lawmakers?
Flournoy yet, it shows that there is some division within Biden's people on this right now. She represents the epitome of what is worst about the Washington blob, the military-industrial complex's revolving door. Her whole history has been one of going in and out of the Pentagon, first under President Clinton, then under President Obama, where she supported every war that the U.S. engaged in and supported increases in the military budget, and then used her contacts in government in these kind of hawkish think tanks that she either joined or helped create. She sits on the board of a corporation that works with defense contractors. She herself has made a lot of money by parlaying these insider contacts into positioning companies to be able to get these very plush Pentagon contracts. She also sees China as an enemy that has to be confronted with higher tech weapons, which justifies increased Pentagon spending and puts us on a dangerous path of an increased Cold War with China. So these are just some of the reasons we think she would be a disastrous pick as Secretary of Defense.
Well, Medea, she not only worked in the Defense Department under Obama, she also worked in the Defense Department under Bill Clinton and was rumored to be Hillary Clinton's first choice as Secretary of Defense had Hillary won the election in 2016. So she definitely is, as you say, part of this establishment of the military-industrial complex going way back. But could you talk about this West Exec Advisors that she helped to create? And we already have two people from that consultancy, that strategic advisory consultancy named by Biden. She would be the third if she was chosen. What has been the role of this barely known group outside of Washington?
Well, that's right. And that's why it's so important to look at this West Exec Advisors, first of all, to understand that it's a secret organization, reveal who its clients are. But we do know that it has been working with Israeli companies. It seems that they work with the United Arab Emirates, and their job is to get contracts for the Pentagon from companies, including companies from Silicon Valley. This is the worst of Washington. Yes, he's already picked Antony Blinken, who was the co-founder with Michele Flournoy. Bad enough that they brought in Avril Haines, who is part of West Exec Advisors. But this consulting firm that seems to be Biden's government in waiting represents the kind of Washington insider revolving door, make sure that companies have an easy in into the Pentagon, and using these insiders from both the Bill Clinton years and the Obama years, and especially the Obama years, to grease the wheels for those companies. So, unfortunately, we would like to know more about West Exec Advisors, but is, as I say, a company that won't reveal who its clients are.
Reading from
Okay. Sorry, let me just. Okay. All right, so that was Medea Benjamin providing a lot of good information there about Michele Flournoy and the firm that she worked for, this secretive organization called West Exec Advisors. They're secretive because they won't make their client list public. They won't publicize any of the work that they've done or their client list. It's all super secretive, and they won't reveal that information to journalists or to anyone else. So it's all being kept secret, which, like, that shouldn't even exist. You shouldn't be able to do that and then get a job in public office. You just left public office, sold your status, cashed in on your status and in some secretive organization, and now you're just allowed to step back into public office again, where you can then leverage that all those contacts, all that networking that you made to probably do favors for those military industrial complex corporations. So I forgot that Avril Haines was also a part of the West Exec Advisors group. So Avril Haines, who we just discussed in our last segment, check that out if you're watching this in the clips later on. You can check out our other clip about Avril Haines specifically, but you'll see what we talked about there. But Avril Haines was also a part of West Exec Advisors. So Joe Biden is essentially picking his national security team from this one consultancy group. He's just picked, he's just like, this is what Medea Benjamin referred to. This is the revolving door in Washington. This is how the revolving door works, right? You go from public office into these high paying consultancy agency jobs, right? And then you use that power and status that you gain through public office to then leverage that into cashing in and making a bunch of money, in personal gain, right? And then you turn around and you just swing right back into Congress in the next administration, right? So, and we just keep on playing games with our votes and thinking, oh, well, we're going to vote for Joe Biden, so it's going to be so different than Donald Trump. When really it's the same goddamn people. All these people are part of the same organizations. Some of them are George Bush lackeys. Like, these are people they've been in politics their whole life. They've been through administration after administration. It's the same people. And again, they just in with one administration, out into consultancy agencies, and then right back back into politics again, where they can just continue to leverage all of their power in those connections. And we're gonna see in another clip that we're gonna watch, the last clip that we'll watch on this, more news broke on Michele Flournoy and Antony Blinken that I think that should put these picks into question. But I think that Sagar in the last clip that we're gonna watch does a good job at also showing us that even if they don't make it, the next up, the backup picks are all horrendous people, no matter what. So there's no winning here. We're not going to get a progressive in because progressives already lost. We lost when Bernie lost. When Bernie lost, that's when the left lost this fight right here, right? So we're not getting anything, and we're not getting anything in a Biden administration. And he's making it very clear to us that the left is not getting anything but a big fat middle finger. And so yeah, so. All right, let's take a look at another clip. This is going to be, I think we're just going to hear from Barbara Ransby here. So we'll listen to this next clip. I don't know if we'll hear David Sirota talking this. I didn't jot it in my notes. So I think this is just going to be from Barbara Ransby, author, professor. All right. Give me 1 sec while I pull that up.
Professor Ransby, let's begin with you. So you had that scene yesterday in Wilmington, Delaware. All of the nominees came out on the stage with President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. All were masked. All stood 6 feet from each other. And after each person spoke, someone came out and wiped down the podium. But Barbara Ransby, the substance of who has been chosen, the beginning of the cabinet, particularly on national security and foreign policy, your thoughts?
Well, thank you again for having me, Amy, and for the good work that you do every day. So, yeah, I saw that press conference too, and I'm certainly glad that they're following the CDC protocols for social distancing. But as you say, it's the substance of those appointments that really should concern us. And I think listening to Medea Benjamin a few minutes ago talk about this West advisors that Blinken and Haines are a part of or were a part of, to look at the absence of some prominent progressives who could have filled some of these positions. People like, say, a Sarah Nelson from the Flight Attendants Union, strong advocate for labor and working people. People who have been international solidarity activists certainly could have filled the position of ambassador to the United Nations. So it is of concern. I think it's an extension of what we've been hearing from some of the centrist Democrats about the left as being divisive, the need to reach across the aisle. Look, progressives, Black people helped to put Joe Biden in office. It certainly wasn't his, stellar record as a candidate or his, eloquence or anything else. So that has to be taken into consideration. And look, we need people who have competence, but we need people who have compassion, who have accountability to the most vulnerable, who pledge to defend the planet, people who have a clear understanding and commitment to fighting white supremacy and police violence. And war. So I don't see that in this group, and it concerns me. And I'll say this. What concerns me also is the presentation of this as a cabinet of firsts. Jake Sullivan is the youngest. Avril Haines is the first woman in the position she's appointed to, et cetera. I don't necessarily just want people that look like me. I want people who are really going to make a difference and who are accountable to the communities that I'm committed to, that I come from, that progressive organizers have been working to empower. So, we've seen diversity, and diversity is fine. It's necessary. I certainly don't want to see an all-white male cabinet, but it is woefully insufficient. We see that time and again. We see it with Barack Obama's administration. This kind of looks like Obama 2.0 in some respects. And we see it, with Clarence Thomas in the Supreme Court and a whole list and litany of public officials who offer cosmetic change, but not substantive change. We are in a deep and disturbing set of crises, and we need people who are going to act to curb the greed of billionaires and provide relief to working people. But we also need people who are going to speak out and stand up against racism and the resurgence of white nationalism. I'm not confident that Biden is heading in that direction, which is why we need to continue to build a movement.
Well, Barbara Ransby, I wanted to ask you about one person who's being talked about who has not yet been named.
Okay. All right. So that was author, left-wing activist, Barbara Ransby there, talking on Democracy Now! And, she said a few parts that stood out to me. She talked about, just one, how you only ever hear Democrats talking about like the bipartisanship and the need to reach across the aisle. It's only ever Democrats that do that, because the Republicans, you never hear them say, oh, Joe Biden's already talking about putting Republicans in his cabinet. He's talked about that. He said that he wouldn't put Bernie Sanders and we're gonna do a story on that later. He wouldn't put Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren into his cabinet, but he'll put a Republican in his cabinet. So he won't put any progressives. He won't put AOC. He won't put any progressives. No progressives in his cabinet. We haven't seen a single progressive nominated to his cabinet yet. No progressives, but he would put he's floated people like John Kasich, and other Republicans for positions in his administration. So, and said that, he would see it as a bipartisan move. Did anyone hear Donald Trump or the Republicans talking about putting Democrats into their cabinet? Did the media mention that? Did anyone talk about that? No, you never hear that. You never hear that from Republicans. You never hear it from the media criticizing, but the media will jump out there and be like, oh, I wonder if Joe Biden and the Democrats are going to be bipartisan. Will they reach across the aisle? Will they be bipartisan? Will they show unity? I saw stuff that was like, oh, should we be, kinder to the Trump supporters, now that Trump's lost? Like, kiss my ass, man. Weren't you just saying these people were like fascists? And now you're out here like, oh, maybe we need to be kinder to them now that they lost. I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not trying to be out here like shitting on people or anything like that. It's working people and all that sort of stuff. Like by and large, they're just poor people that have, are either just straight up either racist or they're just misguided or whatever the case is. There's a bunch of people that just, they're not deeply informed folks and just think that, oh, Trump's an outsider. Trump's this like, what do you get the image of like The Apprentice and stuff like that. That's what people knew about him. People used to talk about Trump. Like the image I had of Trump until Trump was elected president was not that bad. It was like, oh, he's like rappers would talk about him. Nelly talked about him in what is it, like Country Grammar or something like that. He's like, let me in now. Let me in now. Bill Gates, Donald Trump, let me in now. What's his name? Beanie Man in a song was like, I don't want to try to say it. But yes, he talks about Donald Trump in a song. Like it was just like playful, whatever. He's like you can kind of mess around. Like it wasn't that serious. It wasn't that deep. But you only ever hear about that, the bipartisanship, the need to reach across the aisle. You only ever hear about that with Democrats, and it's because they're weak and they are. It's not weakness. It is actually a strength on their part because they are doing what they need to do in order to maintain power for the establishment and maintain corporate power. So I don't even want to give the that impression of like whatever. So all right. They also said she also said, I don't care about this whole cabinet of first things. Like, I don't care about the youngest person for this position and the first woman for this position and the first black person for this position. It's like they're all terrible people with terrible policies. And that's what matters to me. Like, sure, diversity is nice, but it is like the bare minimum, most basic thing. So if that's your ends and not just like some means to an ends or something like that, if that's really your end goal, like, we are not allies. We are not, fighting for the same things. Like in the thing that you're fighting for is absolutely pointless because it's superficial. It's literally superficial. It's literally like skin deep. But it's what race is this person, and that somehow matters. Like give me black folk, put Nina Turner in there, put Derek Hamilton in there, put Cornel West in your cabinet, like put some proper black activists in black leftists into your cabinet. Like, that's fine. I'd support the hell out of that. But that's not what they're doing. They just pick these people that have these superficial qualifications. Oh, they're diverse, but they're terrible people behind that. So why are we celebrating their diversity when ignoring their records as these terrible, awful, destructive records that these people have? Let's not ignore that and pretend like these people are just, oh, she's a brown belt and she likes science and she can fly planes and like, all right, so who else could fly planes? The 9/11 terrorists. They could fucking fly planes. Like, is anybody out here celebrating the fact that the 9/11 terrorists could fly planes? Like, are we all proud of that? Does that seem like a thing to celebrate? Oh, Tammy says technically they couldn't fly planes. No, they actually could though. They got trained by the U.S. to fly planes though. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. All right. What else? Yeah, she said, you don't want people that just look like me. I totally agree. I don't want these people that just look like me. I don't care if they're black. Like, I don't care if they look like me. I want them to think like me. I need them to think like me as well. That's much more important to me. I would rather have a cabinet of all old white men, who actually believed in the ideology that I believed in, instead of a diverse cabinet of neoliberals or neoconservatives. Give me that all day. All right. All right, give me one sec. All right. Okay, let me see. She brought up the example of Clarence Thomas as well. Is it Clarence Thomas or is it? Yeah. I think she said Thomas Clarence, I swear, but it's Clarence Thomas. I wrote Thomas Clarence for some reason. I'm like, why the hell would I write Thomas Clarence? His name's Clarence Thomas. She used that as an example, good, we got a black guy on the Supreme Court. He's also like just the worst dude you could find. I don't care that he's black. I don't care that Clarence Thomas is black. Look what he did to Anita Hill. All right, that's the black person that I care about in this situation, Anita Hill, and it's a black woman, in fact. And you should actually look up what Clarence Thomas's wife did to Anita Hill. I that's something that I learned about recently that blew my mind. Look up what Clarence Thomas's wife did to Anita Hill. It's unreal. And then she just mentioned something that we mentioned a lot earlier in the show, that just mentioned that we're facing these deep existential crises, and what we need to meet that moment are bold, visionary, revolutionary leaders, and that is not what we are getting. So we know what's to come. We know what it's going to mean for poor working class people. We are going to get more of the same bullshit. People, black people, poor people, indigenous people, marginalized peoples will continue to suffer, will continue to fall through the cracks. We will not build a strong enough safety net to catch those people, to support those people. Poverty will continue in this country. Homelessness, poverty, child hunger, those will all continue to be problems because these people they do not believe in the policies that we need people to believe in the positions that they hold. Tony Blinken, by the way. We they didn't talk too much about Tony Blinken here. And I really wish, that's something that I should have prepped more material specifically on Tony Blinken. But Tony Blinken is the guy, by the way, who pushed Obama from the right into Libya. That's who Tony Blinken is. All right. So Tony Blinken was an advocate for what we did for the Libya model, as John Bolton called it, for what we did in Libya. Tony Blinken was an advocate for that. And he advocated for, mind you, in Libya, they now have, slavery. Slavery has taken hold in the wake of what the U.S. did, and the U.S. Involvement in these foreign wars, because of what the U.S. did in these regime change, actions overseas, taking out Gaddafi and having him, helping these people to capture him, kill him, drag him through the streets. What has risen up in the absence, in the void left behind by Gaddafi? Slavery, literal slavery it now exists in Libya. Literal slavery. And that's what you can thank Tony Blinken for literal fucking slavery. That's what that's what their policies create. And he goes from creating slavery, making slavery great again in Libya, to, secretive organization where he uses his power to leverage his status and his connections to make money. And then he goes back into politics as the Secretary of State. I mean, for anyone not familiar, Secretary of State, that's a very important position. Secretary of Defense is as well, for Michele Flournoy. Those are two very important positions. Secretary of State is the person that's supposed to be, your top diplomat. That's what the Secretary of State is. That's your top diplomat. The dude that literally pushed for regime change, war in Libya, that created slavery in Libya, that's the dude we want to be our top diplomat. Seriously, y'all, we don't know what's going to come from a Tony Blinken as a Secretary of State. No, we know exactly what's going to come of that. We know exactly what to expect, and we should not, let's not be surprised or caught off guard on the left. We should call it out and know exactly what we're getting ourselves into, because there's no surprise to be had here. Shin says, did you know Neera Tanden, after the invasion of Libya, speaking of Libya, did you know Neera Tanden, after the invasion of Libya, wanted to force Libya to give the U.S. some of its oil profits to help pay for America's deficits? I did not know she did that, but that's the type of awful shit that Neera Tanden is famous for. This is the type of awful shit that she does all the time. Just, what the neoliberal ideology is, so you can just pick a situation, and how they're going to respond to it. They're always in favor. These are U.S., they believe in American exceptionalism. They believe America's better than every other place in the world. These are just diverse. They're rainbow nationalists. They're not white nationalists. These are rainbow nationalists. And I despise all forms of nationalism. So I saw a quote recently. It might have been through it might have been through an angry black girl. I'm not sure. I saw a quote recently about how, the difference between like patriotism, somebody quoting and saying the difference between patriotism and nationalism, where patriotism is like believing that your country is better than everywhere else and wanting people, to adopt those things, but where nationalism is like this idea that like, you need to go spread that around the world, and like you have a right to go and like do militaristic acts around the world and that sort of thing. So that distinction is important. And these people that are like they're nationalists as well. They think that America they're imperialists. They're U.S. imperialists, Western imperialists who believe that it's totally cool if America just goes all around the world bombing and blowing up and cooing and regime changing, whoever the hell they feel like it. That's what will be done. We will get a continuation of wars under Biden. In fact, one other thing that I want to point to while we're on this topic is actually a really this tweet that was something that was tweeted out by Left Flank Veterans. It's a leftist group of former of veterans who are anti-war, pro, leftist, pro. They describe themselves as they say in their Twitter bio, it says, capitalism runs on blood and war is the top donor. We are leftist, pro-political revolution, anti-war, and anti-military industrial complex cooperative of post 9/11 veterans. So this is a worker cooperative, which I really love. And so I want to actually have someone from Left Flank Veterans on the show, and they're going to be one of the people that I'm going to be reaching out to come on the show. So I hope to have them on the show. In fact, the Vanguard did a great interview with her name is I'll try to find it, Erica, the white trash socialist on Twitter. And they had her on their show recently. It was a really great interview. Highly recommended. I'll try to have her on this show as well. So that we can, I'd love to have some discussions with her, with a leftist veteran. But let me show you this tweet that they tweeted out, which I think really highlights what the Biden administration signals to the military industrial complex. Let's see what the signal is to the military industrial complex from the Biden administration. So here's a tweet from Left Flank Veterans, and they tweeted out and they said, vaccines were huge contributors to the stock bump, but what explains the huge bump in defense industry over the past few days? And if you take a look here, you can actually see, they have these, they posted for Lockheed Martin. This is a massive, quote unquote, like defense contractor. They're offense contractors. They build bombs and weapons. All right. They build weapons. These are weapons manufacturers, military weapons manufacturers. And you can see that they have a change of, this is just like what you see here. The change is like, you can see down in the graph below where starting on Monday, this was the Monday after Biden. So this is the Monday after Biden was, his win was cemented essentially. So this is the Monday after, where he's now like, they've started certifying the votes in multiple states, and he's now the announced winner of the election. So this is the Monday following that, and you can see what was happening. Their stocks were dipping a little bit, and then boom, as soon as Monday hits and they get that news or whatever, and the markets open on Monday after the news over the weekend that Biden will be the president-elect, it just goes up, increased by 7 points, a 2% increase just right out of the gate or whatever. Then you can see some other. So that's Lockheed Martin. You can see Boeing Company, same exact thing. Stocks going down, uncertainty. Oh, who's it going to be? Boom, Biden, Monday. Whoop. 3.3% increase. That's Boeing. You got General Dynamics Corporation, 2.5% increase. Boom, Monday. Stocks dipping a little bit, and then boom, Monday, up. And then you have Raytheon right here in my home state of Massachusetts. Elizabeth Warren's a big fan and supporter, and you can see for Raytheon, it was really steady. For the past few days before that, pretty steady, just up and down, staying steady around $70, and then whoop up. Up $5 essentially. since Monday, you know. So that's a, you know, it's about a what is it, more than a 5% increase there. So like a 6-7% increase since Monday, 2.3% over the day. All right, so I just think that's important. When you see these stocks increasing, it's a signal. It's a signal that the military industrial complex, the wealthy people are happy. The military industrial complex is happy. They got what they needed. They got Joe Biden, and that's going to spell more, you know, more financial support to the military industrial complex. We will not do anything to alter that. So you know what foreign policy is going to be in this country. We already know what our foreign policy is looking like for the next 4 years, and it's more forever wars, and just, you know, this never ending empowerment of the military industrial complex. One more video that I want to show, because this news broke on about Michele Flournoy and Antony Blinken and that and another group that they're involved in. So let's take a look at this. This is a piece from Rising, The Hills Rising. This is going to be Sagar and Jetty on Rising. And this clip is about 5 minutes. I'm not sure where I'm going to cut it. Might play the whole clip all the way through. So bear with me, because I really think that this is an important bit of news that broke. And this is the only place that I've seen it covered so far. So I just want to, you know, and that's the thing. Like, I know people here probably aren't big fans of Sagar and Jetty. We're, you know, I think we're mostly leftists here that are watching. I'm not going to be a whole bunch of fans of Sagar and Jetty, but honestly, I think that, you know, I'm not totally against them. I think that I watch the show. I watch the show every day. You know, it's part of my you know, news diet. And I watch them. I 10:30 every morning, 5 days a week. You know, I watch their show. I think that it's informative, and I think that while we may disagree on a ton of stuff, I think that he is actually a sincere, you know, quote unquote right-wing populist, and that there are certain areas where at least he's willing to criticize the Republican Party that establishment Republicans are not willing to criticize. And yeah, I think that he's an honest actor, even if I vehemently disagree with him on 90% of how to get out of these situations. We agree with about 90% of our analysis of the actual situation and what's going wrong. We just totally disagree about how to get out of it. But here we go. Sagar and Jetty. He's going to talk about another some breaking news on about Tony Blinken and Michele Flournoy that I believe will put the Michele Flournoy pick into question. But at this point, Tony Blinken is like cruising right now. Flash Flood Area 3 says Sagar is better than some. Yeah, I totally agree. Like I Sagar is better than most liberals to me. Like, I like Sagar. I absolutely like Sagar more than I like 99% of liberals out there. Like, I can't with them. With Sagar, at least it's like, at least he gets what's wrong, you know, at least he can actually analyze and understand what's going on with everyday people and understand the pain, the economic pain that people are feeling. And so I can rock with that. So, all right, let's take a look at this clip here. And then we'll come back and we'll discuss.
Media, and the New York Times in particular, has spent the last 4 years catering to the wants and needs of its upper middle class white suburbanite subscriber base, and even forgot how to cover corruption on the Democratic side. Well, now that it seems that Trump is on his way out, they've dusted off their old notebooks and decided to actually do some work for a change. Lo and behold, they've come across just how deep the corruption goes within Joe Biden's incoming national security cabinet, and even uncovered some new stunning details. Now, we've already told you in depth here about West Exec Advisors. That is the firm co-founded by Antony Blinken and Michele Flournoy. Blinken is the likely incoming Secretary of State. He's already been named by Joe Biden. Flournoy is one of the top contenders for Secretary of Defense. Their firm peddled influence for Fortune 500 companies over the last 4 years, seeking to navigate Washington, including Google, one of the major defense contractors, and several others. At one point, their website literally advertised helping major companies navigate the U.S.-China relationship in order to expand access there. But it seems after Blinken got nominated that they decided to remove that unseemly little detail from their website. Well, the Times now reveals that Blinken and Flournoy are advisors to a private equity firm called Pine Island Capital, which on November 16th, 2 weeks after Election Day, filed for an initial public offering. Included in their filing documents is an absolutely astonishing turn of phrase, which amounts to outright corruption. Let's listen closely. The fund manager writes, quote, Pine Island Capital Partners believes it has extensive connections to industry leaders, unusual access to information, and often unique insights into specific companies, programs, and overall market dynamics. Adding, quote, the reputations and networks of Pine Island Capital Partners team, both individually and collectively, will ensure exposure to a significant number of proprietary opportunities. So let's break that down in plain English. You have the leading contenders for Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense. They form an influence peddling operation. Those two then sign on to a hedge fund. That hedge fund raises $218 million to take advantage of, quote, new opportunities right after Election Day. Now, who's going to create those new opportunities? The advisors themselves, whom the fund manager specifically tout as a competitive advantage to public investors. You see, it's a circular scheme. And the best part is it's totally legal. It's also corruption 101. This is the legal way of paying somebody up front to deliver for you or your company after you get into office. It's just a more sophisticated way of handing somebody a briefcase full of cash. And the press attention here seems to be working. Flournoy has yet to be made a lock for Secretary of Defense. Her business partner is already Secretary of State. But other candidates are being proposed, including one former general, Lloyd Austin. Now, the potential pick was praised high and wide because Austin would be the first Black Secretary of Defense in our nation's history. That's great. There's just one problem, though. Guess who also is an advisor to Pine Island Capital Partners? You guessed it, Mr. Lloyd Austin himself. These people never lose. They know that you don't always hit the jackpot with one or two advisors. That's why you hire everyone in town. That way, when someone like Biden comes along to the presidency, they know they have a lock on the profits and on the contracts before he's even in the door. Let's say Mr. Austin is somehow denied his post along with Flournoy. Who's waiting in the wings? Well, it's former DHS Secretary Jay Johnson, another person who would be the first Black Secretary of Defense. That's great, right? Yeah, well, instead of just working for a company that will seek to rake in Wall Street profits from these policy, he also just happens to work for one of the companies themselves. Johnson is a board member of Lockheed Martin Corporation, one of the largest defense contractors on the planet. And this is what I mean when I say that these people always win. There is always an inside man or somebody who is standing by to snap to and deliver once in government. When I warned here repeatedly that electing Joe Biden and quote unquote going back to normal is a bitter pill to swallow, this is exactly what I meant. Over at Agriculture, Biden is reportedly thinking about literally just tapping Obama's former agricultural secretary. At the CIA, he's thinking of putting forward Obama's former acting CIA director, Mike Morrell. Or his alternative to that is Tom Donilon, who is a deputy national security advisor to Obama and coincidentally the brother of one of Biden's closest aides. It's the same story in almost every agency of our government. Biden is assembling the Democratic dream team of those who architected, profited from, and brought about the populist backlash of 2016. It's as if he truly has learned nothing. But it's also not surprising from someone who has worked in Washington for the last 50 years. All right, up next, Ryan and I are going to talk more about Biden's cabinet picks. That's when Rising continues.
All right. So, okay. That was Sagar and Jetty breaking down some, giving us some further background on the pick, these picks, Tony Blinken and Michele Flournoy, and the fact that they weren't just on this secretive group, West Exec Advisors, but they were also, working for this hedge fund, Pine Island Capital Partners, where they were also peddling their influence. And I just think that this is corruption. Like, Saga said, there's corruption 101 here. There's nothing more corrupt than saying, hey, we got great connections that got, quote, unusual access to information. Like, they are literally talking about selling the secrets of the United States government, for political gain, for private capital gains. Really, what are these for? These are for, like, they help these hedge funds help, or they invest in they invest in military industrial complex, like defense contractors. I hate calling them that because they're not about defense. They're not there for defense. They are tools of offense. They build weapons that we use in offensive wars. Okay. So that's who these companies are. And they are just literally peddling their influence and saying, hey, we got big connections over there in government and with unusual access to information. And we got some new opportunities coming up right after the election. They say, we got new opportunities. Wonder what those new opportunities are, y'all. I wonder what the new opportunities are for the military industrial complex hedge fund over here. And it's just, and they, these are it's all out in the open, but nobody's covering it. Nobody in the mainstream media is talking about it. Instead, it's just, oh, it's so diverse, and he's picking all these people. It's such a return to normalcy. It's a return to normalcy. That's the problem. The problem is that normalcy in this country is what got us here. Normalcy in this country is what ignores the pain and the plight of all the poor and working class people, of Black people, of indigenous people. That's the norm in this country. So to return to norms and return to normalcy is just a return to that same form of destruction, which is a more subtle form of destruction. That's not all in your face. If you'd like to just ignore it and go back on about your business, doing your little capitalistic exploitation, allowing the continued exploitation of workers through the capitalist system, well, then just go on ahead and ignore all this, this complicated stuff going on back here with these drone bombs and torture programs. You don't want to hear about that, silly. Go grab yourself some chicken and waffles, y'all. Do a rap battle, at your favorite chicken and waffle spot. Tammy says, the norm is complacency, if not outright oppression and exploitation. 100%. Absolutely agree with that. Flash Flood Area 3 says, Sagar is better than some. Absolutely agree with that. And he says he certainly sees through the identity politics of liberals. Absolutely. What he misses, though, is the identity politics of conservatives. Because when we talk about identity politics, let's not let the right wing off the hook. Nobody does identity politics more than the right wing. They are a 90-something% white political party. They do identity politics more than anybody. They love to sit there and whine about the liberals and their identity politics. I hate it all. I hate all the identity politics across the board. And identity politics is a co-opted term. It actually was started by some queer Black women from the Combahee River Collective. And it's been totally co-opted and destroyed and torn apart. But the people that created the term identity politics, they did not intend for it to be used to be weaponized against us like this. They've now weaponized identity politics. And both liberals, both centrists and the right wing weaponize identity politics. The liberals do it for all the rainbow of identities, and the Black, brown, indigenous, gay, queer, trans people. They will do identity politics. Simply, it has to be totally superficial identity politics, and that's how they weaponize it. They take identity and they then use somebody's identity to hide behind that identity as they continue the same destructive neoliberal policies that got us into a Trump in the first place, right? But the right wing, they do identity politics too. It's just white identity politics. It's just, hey, if you want to, we're going to protect your whiteness and you want to have your whiteness protected and upheld, stick with us, right? And that's the Republican Party, and that's what they're really about. And that's white nationalism and white supremacy. And they absolutely, and don't get me wrong, I mean, the Democratic Party and the liberals believe in white supremacy as well. It's just a different flavor of white supremacy, right? It's that covert, that layered, oh man, I should have this tweet I saw by Angie Speaks that I retweeted it out recently, where she says, like, she says that, and I retweeted it because I feel the same way. She said that, like, I'm much more afraid of white liberals than white supremacists. Like, I'd rather the people, and this is indicative of that, like, it harkens back to that Martin Luther King quote. in his letter from a Birmingham jail, where he talks about something similar, where it's like, I'm more afraid of the white liberals than white supremacists, because I'm more concerned with, I'd rather have that out in your face. You wear it on your sleeve. Kind of reminds me of Inglourious Bastards, when they would carve the swastika in the heads of the Nazis, because they would say, oh, are you gonna, I bet you go home and you take that uniform off, right, at the end of the day, and you can't tell that they're a virulent racist at that point, right? But so they wanted to mark them. I want them to have a clear marker and indicator that, hey, I'm a racist. Wear it on your sleeve so I know who you are, so I don't put myself around you or in a position where I can be harmed by you. The problem with white liberals is that, and Angie Speaks references, that like, it's hidden. Their white supremacy is just hidden under layers of false moral, legitimacy, she says, right? So they just have this thing where they sit there, and I'll tell you, I got some white liberals, some white leftists even in circles I roll in, that have done this shit, and it makes me sick to my stomach. And I don't call them out because I don't got the power, I don't got the means. I would be looked at as like, oh, Kamali, you're being too harsh to them. They're allies. No, they're not. They're not allies. They got white supremacist beliefs. They think that they're smarter than us. They think that they're better than us. They think that we want to be like them. And they think that they're going to somehow, they think that they're these white fucking saviors, and they're not. And I don't like them. I don't want them in my circles that I roll in, but I got to deal with them. They're all around me. And it's just a different brand of white supremacy, where it's covert racism versus overt racism, right? It's the lynching and KKK and neo-Nazis versus, I don't see color, or oh, you speak so well, you're so smart, and it's such a surprise to them, like, you're such a smart, you're so well spoken, and that kind of bullshit, you must be one of the good ones, kind of that kind of like covert racism, that bullshit, that it's just and they feel like they use all the language of wokeness, and they what did Katie Halper and Brianna Joy Gray recently coined a term that they called like woke washing. They woke wash, they woke wash everything, and they try to woke wash it and be like, oh, we saw the tweet in the last episode that we did, we saw a tweet out about when Cedric Richmond got nominated for what was he nominated for? Cedric Richmond, head of the White House Office of Public Engagement, and the dude's like one of the most well-known polluters, defenders of polluters. He takes the fifth most amount of money from the fossil fuel industry, oil, gas industries, in all of Congress, for all the Democrats in Congress. And he lives in a district that has 7 of 10 of the most polluted census tracts in the entire country. So, it's in New Orleans, but they were like, they were propping up this. I lost my train of thought there. Sorry. I lost my train of thought on that. I don't know what I was referring to there. I don't care. They all suck. They're terrible people. Cedric Richmond, they were just hiding behind his like blackness on this essentially. But anywho. All right. Tammy says identity politics was originally defined for intersectionality, but it's been bastardized by right wingers and now also weaponized by liberals / performative allies. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Flash Flood Area 3 says they always corrupt perfectly good ideas and terminology for some awful use. Yes. They do this over and over. Like progressive has been destroyed. The term progressive is just, let's stop using progressive. I do not identify as a progressive. Call yourself what you are. To say you're a progressive, it has been that term has been utterly destroyed. You got Joe Biden saying that he's got the most progressive cabinet of all time. Like, and people don't even blink at that. Like, people don't even question that when he says this. You know what he meant when he said it's the most progressive cabinet? He meant it's the most diverse. That's it. We got a bunch of people of different colors and genders. That's it. And diverse in that way, really, because there's not even like, it's not even groundbreaking as like, oh, he's got like black trans women like leading this or that. It's like, and trust me, if they find black trans women to be in the Biden cabinet, they will be the most imperialist, neoliberal, neoconservative, like, practically right wing, black trans women they could find. That's the only way you get elevated up to the position that you can even be considered for that. So, yes, they co-opt the hell out of this, out of the language that we use. Progressives, I see, like TYT still uses the language of like the home of progressives. Like that's, man, I gotta do a talk about TYT and how I feel about TYT nowadays. But love Anna Kasparian. That's all I will say. And I fucks with Hassan Piker. But whatever. Okay, so yeah, so they co-opt terms. Progressive has been totally co-opted by liberals and neoliberals, and that term's been destroyed. Anybody will call them. You got, the Center for American Progress, Narratan, like they use the language of progress and progressivism, but their progress is so minuscule. You can call yourself progressive if you're trying to progress from, just from 10,000 drone bombs to 999 drone bombs. It's like, well, we made progress, y'all. That's progress. That's technically progress. That's progressive, right? It's a weakened term that's been totally destroyed by liberals and centrists. All right. Any more comments? All right. Tammy's, What Up America says, no, I think we should be as cool. What Up America says, no, I think we should be as cool and persuasive towards Trump supporters. Give Trump credit for the vaccine so they will take it, maybe become a progressive. Yeah, see, there goes that word progressive. But I agree that we should, I don't want to be like totally alienated. I'm not going to spend my time. Like, here's the thing. I'm not going to spend time like shitting on Trump supporters. Like, I recognize that some of them are Trump supporters because of economic pain that they're feeling. And they might hold racist views, to be honest, but it's not because they're like some uniquely awful person. Like, they're no more racist really than Joe Biden is, right? The segregationist dude, look at his policies, and they've certainly not done the kind of damage that Joe Biden has done to black and brown people through his mass incarceration and the war in Iraq, like that he championed. Like, there's no way these poor white people that are Trump supporters did anything even fucking close to that, right? So I'm not going to put them in that same boat. I'm not going to treat them like they're somehow like pieces of shit or less human. Like, sure, if they will come along on our policy, and we can find areas of agreement in certain things, like there are certain areas that we agree on, like getting money out of politics and even like raising the minimum wage in a lot of places, right? Like in Florida, they voted for Trump, but they also voted 60% to increase the minimum wage, right? So the same place that Trump won. But then over in California, and we talked about this in California, where Joe Biden won overwhelmingly, Prop 22 passed, and it allows Uber and Lyft and these companies to abuse and exploit workers, right? So, and that passed in a deep blue state, right? So we can see that there's like, it's not clear. The lines aren't so clearly drawn, right? If you go policy by policy, people are, by and large, America agrees they are left-wing policies are popular. Medicare for all is a popular policy. The Green New Deal was a popular policy, at its prime. I think it is still majority support in the country, even when you include Republicans and independents in there. And so, by and large, when you go down the list of policies, I just think that we will have far better. We will be far more effective trying to bring in new voters who are apathetic, disinterested, disengaged, disenchanted voters who have sort of given up on the political system because they continue to see that neither of the two parties are doing anything for them. And neither of the two parties, their lives don't improve whether it's a Democrat or a Republican in power, their lives don't improve. And so I think that we can reach those people, hopefully through a new third party, the People's Party, that we can reach those people, and that we will have a much better time trying to reach across and pull those people over to our side. They're already on our side, policy wise. They're just not in the fight because they feel like the fight is pointless, that the same, no matter what they do, you just get one or the other, two sides of the same coin, Democrat, Republican. I believe that we will have a much better time, and we do the same work, right? We just simply don't sit there. We don't have to shit on and laugh at or bash the Trump supporters Because they're poor. They're by and large poor working class people that I don't need to shit on. They're the same people that we want. We say they're part of the proletariat. We do need to bring those people along with us. They're going to be impacted by the policies that we implement. I just think they're going to like our policies. These are the same people that are like right wingers, but they'll say like, there were Tea Party like rallies where they had signs that they were carrying that were like, keep your hands off my Medicare, right? And that's a Tea Party, far right, supposedly rallies, and they're saying, keep your hands off my Medicare. These people, they like our policies. They will support our policies when they finally, trust me, you give universal health care, you give Medicare for all, I guarantee you that you cannot undo that even the right wingers. Look at other countries. Even conservatives in other countries have to support. Even in UK, the right-wing politicians support the nationalized healthcare system. You can't really sit there and run on a platform of like dismantling national healthcare or universal healthcare in these other countries, or you just lose. That's political suicide. So once you establish those universal programs, they are really, really hard to undo. What Up America goes on. He says, they say, JD has a big Trump audience, even if JD is a Jimmy Dore. Okay, so Jimmy Dore has a big Trump audience, even if Jimmy Dore is a fuckhead sometimes. I think it's a net positive. He's drawing Trumpers left. Most lefties don't have that ability. Yeah, I'm fine with like a Jimmy Dore. I honestly, some of what I said in we did a debate on Jimmy Dore, and I wish I had taken a bit of a stronger position in that debate and tried to defend Jimmy a little bit more. But because I do think that he serves a purpose. I do, the more that I think about it and review it, like I do believe that he serves some purpose on the left, and that he's sort of a net that catches some of these people, and he's also he pulls them along on the pipeline, right? There's like a pipeline from the right to the left, and Jimmy Dore is a step in that pipeline, I believe. Hopefully, people aren't getting stuck at Jimmy Dore and they continue to shift to the left beyond Jimmy Dore's set of policies, because there are certain blind spots I think that Jimmy has. But by and large, I think that he does some good work that is overall helpful, beneficial to the left, because he catches these people before they slide back to the right, or he draws some over from the right. And that's important to do, and to try to keep those people out of the right wing. So I'm totally cool with the Jimmy Dore doing what he does and trying to, to pull some of these people over to our side. That's how politics works, right? Like we're not winning right now. We need to bring people onto our side. We got to figure out how we're going to do that on the left. And I don't want to alienate a person just because they supported Trump. There were people that voted for Obama that went and voted for Trump. We should be able to pull those voters back to us. That's absolutely something that we should, and we can and should do. What Up goes on. Jimmy Dore has a big Trump. Yep. So nice. Great comments. What Up? Appreciate that. For anyone that doesn't know, I always mention What Up is the person responsible for our amazing theme song. I love that damn song so much. Appreciate that. Big thank you. Shout out to Ian Olson, aka What Up America, for producing writing and producing the show song. Really great stuff. Really great stuff. Oh, and shout out to Ian Olson, aka What Up America, for giving the channel a shout out on Twitter. That's dope. Yes, everyone be like Ian, right? Solidarity, dopeness. I appreciate that, Ian. Deeply appreciate that. Thank you so much to What Up for doing that. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. That's awesome. That is awesome. Tim Black recently gave us a shout out on Twitter too. He tweeted out our last stream. Like I said, he tweeted out our last stream, which was dope. Even though it was my worst stream ever. Like, I wish it was this stream that he tweeted out. Like, this has gone far better. This is much more indicative of what you get from a Radical Democracy Show stream. And I'm much happier with how this stream has turned out than our last one. I wish it wasn't that one, but Tim Black catches me in all my worst moments. So no surprise there that happened. All right. Shin says, in 2008, Naritanen literally pushed the chest. Oh, yes. I didn't realize that it was Faz Shakir that she did that too. So, damn, that was Faz Shakir for real. So in 2008, Naritanen literally pushed the chest of Faz Shakir after he asked Hillary Clinton about her vote on the Iraq war. Faz was a reporter at the time. Wow, I did not know that it was Faz. I knew that she had done that she had pushed somebody when they asked that question. I remember it got brought back up when Corey Lewandowski, also like a Trump Trump staffer, I think he was Trump's like chief of staff or campaign manager. He was definitely his campaign manager at one point. And Corey Lewandowski pushed some woman during some news conference or something like that. He pushed her out of the way, and it became this whole big scandal. And through that, I saw people bringing up the fact that Neera Tanden had done the same thing to somebody back in the day. I did not realize it was Faz Shakir, who would go on to be Bernie Sanders, a co-chair of Bernie Sanders' campaign, and his he was a spokesperson for the Bernie Sanders campaign. I actually saw Faz Shakir speak live at a small event when Bernie kicked off his the Burn app. He was kicking off and sort of launching his campaign for president in 2019, I believe it was. So went to this little small event. It was really awesome. I saw Faz Shakir, Nina Turner, and Bernie Sanders all speak, and I was like 5 feet away from them. It's on YouTube. You can find the video of the launch thing, and you'll see me in the background there, just chilling in the back, hanging on to every word of Nina Turner's. And so it was quite an honor to get to see Nina Turner speak live. Nina Turner, just a little, she follows me on Twitter, just saying, pretty dope. I will be reaching out to her. She is one of the people on my very short list of people that I would love to have on the show. I signed up. Tim Black guilted me into. He didn't need to guilt me, but he guilted. He had on one of his shows recently. He just talked about it. It wasn't like directly to me, but he mentioned that Nina Turner has a Patreon, and go check it out. It's called Hello Somebody. You can find her on Patreon. Just search for Hello Somebody on Patreon. And please, if you are not subscribed to Nina Turner's podcast, she does a podcast. If you are not subscribed, this woman was the national co-chair of the Bernie Sanders campaign, and somehow she goes and she breaks off, and she's still fighting for the left. And she somehow has less than 1,000 Patreon subscribers. Like, that is, it's a damn shame. We need to show solidarity. And that is one very crucial way that we can all show some solidarity. If you can afford to do so, please head over to Patreon and search for, I'm sure my producer, I just have a feeling that she's going to be dropping a link in the chat very soon. But Tammy will probably drop a link in the chat soon. But please head over to Patreon and sign up for, I think the lowest tier is $5, but you can sign up on Patreon for as low as $1 a month. You don't have to sign up on the tiers that they recommend. So you can sign up for as low as $1 a month on Patreon. But please, if you can afford even $1 a month, throw Nina Turner $1 a month. Help her get to 1,000 subscribers. I hope I can guilt one person into supporting Nina Turner. So I hope I can pay it forward. Tim Black, pushed his audience to please go support Nina Turner. I want to push my audience to please do the same. Support Nina Turner. Support Black, women leftists that are fighting for us. With every breath she takes, she is fighting for the left, and she deserves more support. She deserves more solidarity, more support from us, and it's a damn shame. But it also goes to show how economically weak the left is, to be honest. And how, how we gain economic power. You do it through workplace democracy. That's the only way. We have to control the surplus of our labor. That's who has economic power in every society, going back throughout history. Whoever controls the surplus of labor is the group or the person who controls the society. So in feudalism, it was, in monarchy, it was the kings and queens. In feudalism, it was the lords, right? In slavery, it was the masters, right? In capitalism, it's the employers. So what we need to do, if we want to let working people, just people in general, control that, you need to do it through workplace democracy. We could open it up to more than just the workers. We could also give democracy to, we can allow consumers of a product as well as stakeholders in the communities that those businesses exist in. We could also provide democracy to those people, to let them participate in economic democracy as well. I have heard arguments made against that I think are fair arguments on the left. Ben Burgess recently made an argument against that on the left. So I think that is also a fair point of debate. Please check out, you can see the link. posted there. It's in the chat. Please check it out. Nina Turner, Hello Somebody podcast. Support her on Patreon, please, folks. Let me know if you end up supporting it. Drop her a comment if you support it because of Radical Democracy, because you saw it here. Drop a comment when you sign up. Drop her a comment and say, hey, I saw, Kamali on Radical Democracy sent me over here to support you, and maybe that'll continue to put a bug in her ear, that when I reach out, she'll be like, oh, you're the one that was sending, was showing some solidarity and sending folks over. I saw a few comments when I went and I supported and I signed up. I saw at least 3 comments from people that were like, I signed up because Tim Black. So that was dope, and that's awesome, and I love that, and I want to show commit my act of solidarity here as well. So love Nina Turner. Hoping and praying, even though I'm not a religious person, praying for a Nina Turner 2024 run, whether it be under the People's Party or the Democratic Party. And yeah, so please support Nina Turner, support independent Black left women, and Black left media, independent Black left media. Support Nina Turner. What Up America says, I agree with David Dole that working class is better than progressive. Yeah, I've seen him making this argument recently as well, that he believes the term working class is better than using the term progressive. I think that I had a response that I'm sad that I'm sort of blanking on it right now, and I haven't smoked recently, so I shouldn't, my memory should be better than this, but I have a response to that because I don't think that working class quite captures it either. So I don't think that term quite captures it. I think that for now it's just like leftist. You can say socialist, you can say social democrat, but I do not think the term I think the term progressive has been completely destroyed. And I do accept saying, like fighting for working class people, but then you get into the argument. I think Brian if he were here, he would also make the argument that talking about working class ignores non-workers, and we also need to capture that when we're talking about the people that we care about. It's not just the working class, it's also the people that can't work for whatever reason. You're a student, you're disabled, you're elderly, you're a child, non-workers. I still consider them of the working class and the labor class, the employee class. I think maybe calling them the employee class, but that still gets to the same issue of like it's super focused on workers and might ignore other folks.
I feel like it's like an identity category, not really a word like a that.
Yeah, Tammy's saying like she feels like it's more like a identity category than say an ideology. It really doesn't say what your ideology is to be progressive. It just says it's like I'm relative to whatever exists today. I would like to go at least one small step beyond that. Is all that progressivism really says about anyone. Speak up.
It's like another way of that is like saying that we should, instead of saying progressives, we should say people of color.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. They're sort of two separate categories there. So Shin says, if you call yourself a socialist, corporate Democrats can't co-opt that. Yeah, for sure. Like they will never co-opt socialist, right? They will not be able to co-opt that. Tammy here says socialist isn't fully co-opted yet, but it's definitely wrongly defined and misrepresented / misunderstood by Dems and right wingers. They call corporate Dems like Biden socialists and Marxists already, even though it's so far from the truth. I think that the right wing does that sort of because they caricature the left, but liberals don't call Biden a socialist. They know damn well Biden is not a socialist, and everybody was saying like Biden's no socialist. Biden was out there saying I ain't no damn socialist, and they hate that socialist label. They've done all the Red Scare stuff against it. So I don't think that they'll be co-opting socialist anytime soon. I promise you that. And it means what it means. It has an actual meaning that we can't. Progressivism is this vague amoebic term that it doesn't say what your ideology actually is. You could be a progressive 50 years ago. You believe a completely separate set of things than a progressive today. Not the same is not true for socialism. Socialism means an extension of democracy from our political system into our economic system. That's what it meant. Literally, you can find writings as far back as 1919, after the Bolshevik Revolution, from Emma Goldman has a quote where she says like that's what she says. This is what socialism actually is, and that's what it was before 1918. That's what it was considered. That was considered what socialism is. It wasn't until the big C communists took power that all of a sudden socialism started to take on these different meanings, where it could mean state control, essentially state capitalism. The state becomes the employer instead of having the private employers. It's just the state takes control, and it's not public control over the means of production, because the public doesn't control the state, right? The state, it gets too much power, and you lose actual democratic power in that situation. It becomes sort of a authoritarian of the authoritarian left. Flash Flood Area 3 says Nina Turner is amazing, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, Flash Flood. She absolutely is. Hope you support her if you can afford to. Only if you can afford to. Don't feel stressed out if you can't afford to, folks. But if you can afford it, even $1 a month, we really should be. I mean, I'm supporting right now. We should support. If you can afford to do so, support. I'm unemployed, but I'm gonna support my sister Nina Turner for show. All right. Flash Flood Area 3 says, I just like to say the people. I don't like everyone being defined by the capacity for wage work. Yeah, exactly. Like Brian Dew would agree with you as well. I agree with you. I don't want, that's not the definition I want of us ultimately. I think the people is a little bit too vague, maybe. Yeah, like maybe when you say like moving for a people's party or the people's party or something like that, like I understand the idea. Like I know what you mean, and I don't totally disagree with you. I just think that it might just be too vague where they can then co-opt that a bit and be like, oh, well, we're for the people. Everybody can be for the people. The Republicans are out here claiming they're for the people, but I think that it's which people, and it's poor, it's working class is the only way I can describe them right now. We don't have a language. We need to build up more language around that. But I like these good conversation here. What Up America says, I had a big argument over workplaces with my best friend the other day. It was heartbreaking. He's so indoctrinated by Goldman Sachs videos. I'm having such trouble convincing him of the model. Yeah. Wow. If you're like indoctrinated by Goldman Sachs, that's tough to break. That's really tough to break out of. I'll try to recommend some stuff in the Discord server that might help. You should check out that piece. Seriously, check out that thing that I dropped in there from G.A. Cohen recently. That video, it's like a 15-minute video from G.A. Cohen, and every leftist should watch that. I've watched it literally like 50 times before. And it's just so good. He talks about why, private ownership, private property is a farce, a total farce, and why capitalism in general is a total farce and inherently destructive. But definitely check that out. G.A. Cohen on capitalism. If you just search like G.A. Cohen on capitalism, or check out I posted it in the Discord server, maybe start by sending that along. I think it's a really engaging and also deeply informative and concise and very informative piece. And then of course, Richard Wolff, there's a ton of stuff that we could show. Have him sit through our 7-hour Labor Day special. I don't think that anyone would actually do that, but if you do, he'll get a whole ton of Richard Wolff references on the matter, and I hope I did a good job backing up those references with my own analysis as well and opinion. So What If America says, referring to
his friend.
Oh, okay. Referring to their friend, What If America says, no way. Like, he's very compassionate, voted for Bernie. He just doesn't have an understanding of leftist ideas and why they are better for society. Yeah, there's totally folks like that it's like, they're not too far gone. As Shin was suggesting that maybe that friend of What Up's is too far gone. I don't think these people are too far gone. They hang around with leftists. They're in our spaces. They're in our circles. And look, voted for Bernie. These people are certainly not too far gone. We have to do the work, right? We have to do the work. It's tough work to do, but it's work that we must do if we want to win. We have to bring people over our side. We have to be more welcoming on the left. That's why, I meant to, I apologized in the Discord server, but I'll just apologize here, to both my super producer, Tammy, who's not shaking her head. She thinks that I shouldn't be apologizing for this, really. But I don't know. I just want to say, like, I didn't intend, I was shouting, screaming my head off in the last episode, and it's just because I get really intense about these things because I care deeply about them, and because I feel the pain of all of these terrible economic policies as a Black person in America, a descendant of slaves. you feel the pain of all this. I mean, I've literally just found out what country my family originated from like a few months ago. Like I just through DNA testing, I know we could have a whole conversation about DNA testing on the left. And it's obviously not a very leftist thing to do, you know, handing over your DNA to a corporation, but I needed to know where the hell my people stem from, because it's to have your culture stolen from you and your identity stolen from you like that. Talking about identity, you know, to have your identity stolen from you, it's a painful thing. And I needed to know. My family did not know how to trace back beyond further than Jamaica, really. We just knew that we were descendant of slaves. So, I mean, that's the way we were brought to Jamaica, you know. So we were all on the same boats coming over. Ours just took a little different turn from America, but I felt all the same, you know, imperialist policies, and then, of course, xenophobic immigration policies, because my mother was here in this country. So Tammy says, in terms of educating people / trying to bring people to the left, obviously, if you're of a marginalized group, you are more often exhausted, etc., when it comes to explaining issues related to your community to others, which is where I think allies should be the ones to take on the brunt of education / calling out / calling in. Yeah, like if you're a man, you need to be bringing up issues of like male supremacy and patriarchy to your other, you know, to other men, and you need to be calling that shit to you know, to calling it out, you know, and calling these people in or calling them out when you see, you know, misogynist, sexist things from other men. You got to call them out. You got to use your identity as a man to say, hey, look at, no, this is actually bad, and this is why, you know, and this is a systemic problem, and it's harming women in particular, but then also men as well, or non-women as well. And so we have to call that out. If you're white, you know, you have to call it out to your racist family members or whoever they might be, or people that are in your circles that are saying racist shit. Like, you got to be the ones to step on the front lines, call them out. You know, if you're a native born American, you got to call out, you know, you know, the xenophobia and things like that. If you're if you're non-indigenous person, you know, and you know, you're especially if you're part of the colonizing, you know, you're part of the colonizer group, it's really incumbent on you to call out these things and to especially with people in your life and around you. And so we gotta do the work. It's got to be the people, it can't be the marginalized people that are being expected to bear the brunt of that. We really has to be the allies, you know, the folks that consider themselves allies. If you want to be a good ally, it means being uncomfortable and being made uncomfortable. You're not going to get comfort, and we have to do the work to bring people over to our side for sure. So and Tammy goes on, and I mean in a way that isn't speaking over people of that community, like speaking for them, but calling out and educating / calling in problematic people in your own community, i.e. white and non-black people, educating ignorant anti-black people, or cis people educating ignorant transphobic people, et cetera, et cetera. Absolutely. Exactly. What Up says, dude, shout. Really, you do it well, and it's warranted. Keep yelling. If people are on the left, they can take it. I appreciate it. Yeah, everyone was very cool about it, and I don't want to push people away. I really want to do good work. One of the people that I really like, you know, admired was Michael Brooks, and he was so good at this, and like, you know, using humor to sort of disarm people. I'm not a funny person, but you know, and like innately, so I don't have those same tools of humor. I'd like to get funnier as I go along, and maybe doing the show. Hopefully I will be, but you know, what's that? Oh yeah. So but I want to do some of that work to make sure that I'm trying to bring people along, bring people over our side, and not be like unwelcoming or pushing people away. And hopefully folks on the left do understand that, like, you know, there's this quote from Cornel West where he says, it's a quote that Malcolm X would say over and over. And essentially he said, I'll just sum it up here. I dropped it in the Discord server, but essentially he says, you know, you're not going to get something disinterested and detached from a person whose butt is on the stove. No, they're going to holler out, you know? And so that's the thing. Like, and Cornel West goes on to say, like, Malcolm X never forgot about the black people whose butts were on the stove, you know, like inadequate housing. That's your butt on the stove. That's black people's butt on the stove. Like, you know, mass unemployment. That's black people's butt on the stove. I forget the rest of the quote beyond that, but that's essentially, we're feeling that pain, inadequate access to healthcare. It's just like these we feel this pain, and so it's really hard not to shout out sometimes when you're feeling it. I mean, I'm unemployed. I've been unemployed for over a year now. I don't see an in back into my industry where I was making, I was in a software engineer. I that's what they all tell you. Go learn to code, right? That's what all the neoliberals will tell everybody. Go learn to code. Well, guess what? I went and I learned to code, and I got into the industry, and the industry fucking sucked. It's still capitalist. It's disgusting. It's capitalism on steroids as far as I'm concerned. I don't like the term like this on steroids, but like it's fucking capitalism on steroids. Or on speed, really. And it literally sometimes, because literally, I mean, I was taking Adderall to fucking get through just to be able to keep up. And people, it's so prevalent, like people taking Adderall in that industry to just like keep up with the flow of shit. And it's really gross, but so it's literally fucking capitalism on speed. But Flash Flood Area says, yes, it should be the work of allies, just as she is saying. Absolutely, 100%. Flash Flood Area says, yeah, maybe you could say it's vague, but it's inclusive. For sure, yeah, using people, definitely inclusive. And there's no better way to describe it. I mean, it is for the people. We are for the people. And that's why I think the People's Party might be I think it's a good name and a good, good movement. It's something that I'm really getting behind. All right. Okay, we're approaching the 3-hour mark. I just want to give a heads up. We're approaching the 3-hour mark. I really wanted to get through all the stories that were in the title of the video. So I really need to get to these stories. So I'll take this comment and then I'm going to really try to hit these stories, because I hate having to go change the title out and do all this stuff, and having to redo, and like push it to the next episode. Like I said, I was going to cover the Comcast story, and I set out, there's no way I can cover all this. You know what? I just think I'm gonna have to bump all of it. It's 3 hours. I can't go any longer. These videos, they're huge files. It's really hard to do the editing when they get too long. Like, I'm gonna have to call it here, I think, unfortunately. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode tomorrow with everything that we weren't able to cover today. So keep an eye out for that. I'll get through the rest of the comments, and then we're gonna call it a night. So we'll just get through the rest of the comments, y'all, and then we'll end the show here. I think we got enough good segments in tonight. Not as much as I would have hoped, but we're, getting back into the groove of things, like I said. Okay, so rest of the comments. What Up America says, responding to Flash Flood Area 3, that is the fundamental problem with capitalism, the ignorance of, quote, shadow prices. Yeah, and I also think, like, the thing about capitalism is that thing where it's like there's no ethical consumables under capitalism. Like, nothing that you do is ethical. And in fact, I watched the show Good Place. I don't know if anybody watches it, but it's so good, pun intended. And definitely check it out. If you haven't watched The Good Place, I recommend it. I love it. Really enjoy it. Just because they hit on some themes. It's not always like super leftist, but they hit on some themes that are like, man, they hit on some sort of leftist ideas. And one of the things that I won't ruin it, but on the topic of the shadow prices, I don't know what you're referring to directly about shadow prices, but to me, what that implies to me, or at least what I infer from it, is that, this idea of like the other prices that you pay for things, right? Like there's additional costs to everything associated with stuff, but maybe you're referring to something different when you say shadow prices. But to me, I'm sort of referencing like the fact that there's these hidden costs of everything. Whenever we buy something, you buy a spoon or something, but you don't realize that spoon was built with like, child labor, and then shipped, across the country using fossil fuels, burning fossil fuels. And the whole thing is run by a CEO that's like, sexual predator, like you don't know these things. There's no way for you to get around it. You're forced into these systems. I mean, I freaking bought something from Amazon recently. Like, there's no way around it. And we're just enriching the most rich people. I mean, Elon Musk has made $100 billion since the beginning of this pandemic. Jeff Bezos has crossed $200 billion, and gained like almost $100 billion himself over the course of this pandemic. So these people are like disaster capitalists. One story I wish I could have got to tonight was about Comcast, and their disaster capitalism. But yeah, I think that it's so, you know, it's so, those things are hidden from us and we can't even see all the damage that these things are doing. I mean, I want to do a story. I hope I get a chance to cover the story, how Kyle Rittenhouse, that dude that murdered 2 people in Kenosha, drove from Illinois to Kenosha to go murder 2 people. The dude just got his bail paid for by the founder of My Pillow. Like, so if you bought a My Pillow, did you know that you were supporting a white supremacist, racist, virulent racist? Did you think that buying a My Pillow, you were somehow empowering the person who was going to, you know, get a white supremacist, a domestic terrorist released from jail to go, you know, be just existing in the community, you know? Meanwhile, we got like Letitia and Jamal locked up over some goddamn weed and, you know, all over the country. But, you know, fucking Kyle Rittenhouse out here just, you know, skating by and getting a $2 million bail paid for with the help of the My Pillow founder. Like, who the fuck saw that coming? So you don't know, you don't realize that when you're buying a fucking pillow that you're supporting white supremacy. Like, who the fuck would have known? You know, you just can't under capitalism. What flash flood area 3 goes on and says, in my honest opinion, the other fundamental problem with capitalism is the commodification of every aspect of life. Absolutely everything is commodified. Everything, even our identity is commodified. Everything is freaking commodified. So it's so gross, and it's disheartening, and it's exhausting when they try to commodify every goddamn thing. I mean, people's pain is commodified. It's just everything, you name it, it's commodified, you know? So yeah, I agree. It's another gross aspect. I don't think it's necessarily like a fundamental problem. It's just another gross ass aspect of capitalism, is that everything is commodified. You know, and so yeah, so I guess I do agree, you know, fundamental problem. I guess I'll accept that terminology, that language. Yeah. Okay, so this is not the full quote, unfortunately. This isn't the one that I was referring to.
No, it's not the ass on the story.
No. This is a different one. But this is good. Let me see, because that's even better. I've not seen this quote before. Tammy pulled this quote up for me. Yeah. I'll actually, I can read you. So we'll first read this quote, and then I'll read you the quote that I was referring to. But I like this because I just sort of looked through it, and I like this. And this is what Cornel West is talking about. And this is what Cornel West is actually referring to. So here's the actual quote from Malcolm X. So this is Malcolm X. He says, "I think, sir, you'll find that when you have 2 different people, one sitting on a hot stove, one sitting on a warm stove, the one who is sitting on the warm stove thinks progress is being made. He's more patient. But the one who is sitting on the hot stove, you can't let him up fast enough. You have the so-called Negro in this country, the upper class Negro, or the so-called high class Negro, as Franklin Frazier called them, as the black bourgeoisie. They aren't suffering the extreme pain that the masses of black people are." This is such a damn good quote. And it is the masses of black people today, I think you'll find, who are the most impatient, the most angry, because they're the ones that are suffering the most. We see this in the mass movements that are being started. The mass protest that rose up after the George Floyd murder, which happened right after the Ahmaud Arbery murder. Like, we couldn't even get over Ahmaud Arbery before fucking George Floyd was murdered. And before there were 2 going, Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, and there was someone else that got murdered right around that time, right before. I think Breonna Taylor might have happened after George Floyd, I believe. I'm trying to get the timeline down in my head. But there you go. That's absolutely, like, you know, it's these, you know, some people are in the black bourgeoisie. Maybe they're sitting on the warm stove. Maybe they face a little bit of, you know, racist incidents in their lives, but they're not having to actually suffer from systemic racism. They've somehow managed to float above that. And so now they think that, well, you know, all you other black folks, just lift yourself up by the bootstraps, do like I did it. I could do it. So maybe you should too. You know, I'm like technically a part of that class. Like, I'm technically a part of the like black bourgeoisie, supposedly, because I'm like, you know, I'm a programmer. I was making 6 figures before. Like, that should be me, but I'm just not one of those people, because I'm in my soul is rooted. You know, I'm rooted in, you know, poverty and in working class struggles.
You also don't have wealth. You have
Yeah, I also have no wealth whatsoever. I have nothing but debt. I have $75,000 of student loan debt. No assets whatsoever. I have no wealth. I don't have wealth. I had an okay income for a few years of my life, but I have no wealth. I technically have the ability to go back to that job, but I just can't do it because of mental health issues. The quote that I was referring to is from Black Prophetic Fire, Cornel West, Black Prophetic Fire. Here it is, right here. Cornel West, Black Prophetic Fire, in dialogue with and edited by Krista Buschendorf. So Cornel West, Black Prophetic Fire, highly recommend this book. And in it, he says, he was the blues. Blues is associated with catastrophe. And Malcolm would say over and over again, quote, he's talking about Malcolm X. So Malcolm X would say over and over again, quote, "You are not going to get something detached and disinterested from anybody who is sitting on the stove and the stove is burning their behind. No, they're going to holler out. They are going to respond deeply and viscerally." And then he says, Cornel West goes on to say, he never forgot the black folk on the stove. He never forgot the prison system, black folk on the stove. Massive unemployment, black folk on the stove. Indecent housing, black folk on the stove. Inadequate healthcare, black folk on the stove. And he goes on, and from the very beginning, from slavery to Jim Crow, so that the sense of catastrophe, the sense of emergency, the sense of urgency, the sense of needing to get it out, to cry out, to shout, somehow allowed that fire inside of his bones to be expressed with power and with vision. He never lost that. He never, ever lost that. So that's Cornel West speaking about Malcolm X, and that's what I try to channel, that black, prophetic fire. I don't have that same, I don't consider Cornel West is the greatest, one of the greatest minds of our time, greatest public intellectual, probably the greatest in my opinion. And he has the black prophetic fire. He is one of those. His legacy will be of one of those black prophets that we've had throughout time. The W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, Malcolm X. He is right up in that group. He's just too humble to say it about himself, of course. So yeah, that's what I was referring to. And those are great quotes from Malcolm X. What If America says shadow prices are things that can't be priced, like a good view of nature or clean air to breathe or being a mother. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Those are incredibly valuable things that we just don't, it's impossible to put an actual value on, right? Just the freedom to not be a wage slave, right? There's a value in that, of not being some employed by somebody else and having to, be their wage slave. Flash Flood Area 3 says, apropos of shadow prices, I noticed that Netflix is promoting the documentary on DuPont, The Devil We Know. That's a great, that's interesting. So they're promoting the documentary on DuPont, The Devil We Know, just as someone who counseled DuPont has been picked for the Biden administration. That's funny. The Devil We Know is a great documentary. I've actually watched it. Mike Papantonio is a lawyer who does all of these cases against these terrible corporations like DuPont. That DuPont is the people that they created some coating spray that they spray on when they make Teflon cookware, and this spray is a carcinogen, and it lets off these fumes or whatever that are carcinogenic, and it gave a ton of people cancer. People that worked in the plants were there's a famous case of a mother who got pregnant while working in the plant. And that's what The Devil We Know kind of focuses on, that family a bit, and tells the story of that family as well. And the child was born with all kinds of physical deformities and disabilities and deformities, really, because of this mother having been pregnant while working around this chemical. And so great documentary that I recommend to everyone, to watch, for leftists especially. And Mike Papantonio, he does amazing work. He's actually a part of the TYT network. Technically, he did the Ring of Fire with forgetting, spacing on who else is on the Ring of Fire. So sorry, dude. I know you, and I'm so sorry that Farron Cousins is the other person that works with Mike Papantonio on Ring of Fire. Also, like Sam Cedar from Majority Report. I think he also works on there. And so, yeah, check that out. It's great. He's also, you can hear his voice on a B.O.B. song. There's this B.O.B. track where B.O.B.'s like talking, it's like sort of talking about like conspiracy theory sort of stuff. And it's like, but it's also talking about like, why does the U.S. have to be a military superpower? Why can't we be a humanitarian superpower? And I'm really good at recognizing voices. I know that's him talking on that, even though I haven't confirmed it yet. I'm like 99% sure that's Mike Papantonio on that B.O.B. track. We won't get into B.O.B. in his flat earth nonsense right now, all right, but yes, I could do a whole damn episode about B.O.B. and its goddamn flat earth thing and flat earthers in general. Flash Flood says, yeah, it's a great documentary. Totally agree, Flash Flood. Flash Flood also says Cornel West is a national treasure, which I 100% wholeheartedly agree with. He absolutely is. Love him. Hope to have him on the show someday. That would literally dream come true, just to interact with him, to interview him. It was one of Michael Brooks's dreams. It is one of my dreams. I'll just pack it up and go home after. No, I won't ever stop. But that is like one of my greatest dreams ever, is to just be able to have dialogue with Dr. West. Wow. Corey Saylor, what's up, Corey? Good to see you in here. Corey's dropped some comments on a few other videos. I responded to some of Corey's comments on some of the videos. Glad to see you during a live stream. I don't know if we've had you on during a live stream before, so glad to see you here. Appreciate you stopping by, Corey. Deeply appreciate that. Hope you continue to stop by for our live streams. Really appreciate having more folks up in here, engaging in the chat. Love it. Corey Saylor says that they were. I was introduced to West on Joe Rogan. Wow. See. Man, I'm telling you, folks, I have been waiting for Kwame from Raised Fist Media to freaking debate me about Joe Rogan, because this is the kind of stuff that I want to talk about with him. Like, I really want to have this debate out about, how the left should handle, what should the left do about, how should we approach a Joe Rogan, and I got a lot to say on that. And listen, I know to everyone in the in the trans community watching, like, I know how terrible Joe Rogan is on trans issues. I know he's trans antagonistic, transphobic, is the more common terminology used. He's straight up trans antagonistic. It's not a phobia. He's not afraid of trans people. He's got some really abhorrent views that seek, would cause harm to the trans community, and that cannot be understated. But I don't think that the answer to a Joe Rogan is like ignore him, totally cancel him. I actually think that his platform can hold value for the left. What he did, he has a largely apolitical base. Those are the kinds of people we're trying to reach, are the people that watch Joe Rogan. That's the people that we're trying to bring into our movement. And look at that. I mean, Corey is being introduced to Cornel West through Joe Rogan. That's wild to me. That just goes to show. That's because, like, I guess Anderson Cooper is the only person I will credit on mainstream media. Anderson Cooper is the only person that has Cornel West on their show. And I love Anderson Cooper for doing it, because Cornel West be dropping some truth bombs on Anderson Cooper's show. And he literally brought Anderson Cooper to tears one time, like straight up sincere, middle of a broadcast. With his words, he brought Anderson Cooper to freaking tears. So Flash Flood says Joe Rogan is sometimes a bridge, and I totally agree with you. Like, he can be a bridge, and he can also he's moved left. And I saw him call out people like Ben Shapiro, and David Rubin. Like, he totally, like, I think he was a big help in destroying Dave Rubin, like putting the final nail in Dave Rubin's coffin. And so I do think that Joe Rogan can be a bridge. He can be a part of that pipeline from the right to the left. And I don't think that total cancellation and ignoring him is the solution to how we should handle Joe Rogan on the left. That's amazing that Corey saw him for the first time, saw Cornel West through Joe Rogan. And by the way, that Cornel West Joe Rogan interview is so good. It's so good. And Cornel West, he does this thing where I admire him so much for this. I mean, I've seen him get angry one time, and it was when this other black, like, neoconservative black dude was on the show, and he just went off on this dude. It was right after the George Floyd protest. George Floyd was like, Cornel West had just come from George Floyd's funeral, and he went on to this show, onto like Fox or something, and this dude was just talking out his ass, this black dude, black right winger, and Cornel West just could not hold back. He went off. I've never seen Cornel West like that, but I've seen him talk to some of the worst people, Candace Owens, and he will sit there and handle Candace Owens like so well. Like, he does this thing where he disarms people with his kindness. And even with Joe Rogan, he's sincere, he's genuine. He's genuine about finding out about people, knowing about who they are, what their background is. If you watch any lecture of his where he goes and he visits somewhere, he always starts out by like shouting out like 10 unknown people that are part of the like organizers and stuff. He's like, oh, this person by name, talking about like their family and how they're great they are, and like showing real genuine love to these people. And he disarms people from any, from the left, from the center, from the right, with his kindness. And then he hooks you in, and he never sacrifices on principles. And he is a ruthless truth teller, but he does it in a way, and he can wrap it up in this loving, kind, genuine, just this beautiful package that he wraps it up in. And his interview on Joe Rogan was amazing. Corey Saylor says that his book Race Matters is on his book list now. Please, Corey, add to your book list. Add Black Prophetic Fire by Cornel West. Please add Black Prophetic Fire to your list. It's a great read about Black history that the Black history that you never heard in any, school before. And also, highly recommend Cornel West, Democracy Matters. And he says, winning the fight against imperialism. Okay. So that's the byline on it. But Cornel West, Democracy Matters. Once you're done with Race Matters, highly recommend Democracy Matters. Once you're done with Race Matters, but absolutely read Race Matters. And I mean, he doesn't just go into race on that, of course. As we all know, Cornel West never leaves out other marginalized peoples, and he's always showing solidarity with other marginalized people. So definitely read Race Matters, have that on your book list. Add Black Prophetic Fire and Democracy Matters to your reading list as well. Extremely important. And that's, Cornel West is he is the person who literally helped name the show. I've learned of the concept of radical democracy. It was popularized in my mind through Cornel West. He is the one that speaks of radical democracy. And in fact, I used to use a quote of his at the beginning of my episodes before What Up America made that amazing track where he specifically talked about radical democracy in the quote at the People's Convention. So he's the one that implanted that term in my mind of radical democracy, and he's literally the reason that I named the show Radical Democracy. Cornel West is the one who I pulled that from. Corey Saylor says added. Awesome. Yeah. And any other comments that we want to get to? You sure?
Yep, you're gonna save that for the other episode.
Okay, my super producer is telling me, Corey, that I have to save my response to your other comment for my other episode, because she knows that I got some thoughts on it, and I won't get into it, but you definitely want to check out. You definitely want to be there for the episode where we do the debate. I'm gonna try to get Kwame from Racist Media to do this debate with me ASAP. Unfortunately, he's got a baby on the way. The baby will be here literally sometime this week. And if it's not by Saturday, it will be here on Saturday at the absolute latest. So, he's just a busy guy right now, right? His first child. So totally understand. But I'm bringing his ass on here to do that debate because we need to make it happen. All right. So we'll get to that. I promise. Sorry about that, Corey. So Tony Patton says Cornel West, Nina Turner, and Bernie Sanders are my favorite speakers. I've seen Nina and Bernie. I'd love to see Dr. West. Yes, Tammy and I had the honor of going to see Cornel West speak live at UMass Amherst It was like what, like no, but when was it?
Like literally a year ago.
About it, yeah, it was pretty much like exactly a year ago. I think it was in November of 2019. So November 2019, we went to Amherst, and we saw Cornel West speak on the topic of BDS, and supporting Palestinian rights. It was an amazing talk. He was there alongside. There was this left-wing Palestinian activist who had been banned from entering the country by the Trump administration. And he just like, they video chatted him in, and that was great hearing from him. That was amazing. And then it was Cornel West, and also Roger, what the hell is his name? He's from Pink Floyd. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now. Roger something from Roger Waters from Pink Floyd was also there. He spoke, he also like Skyped in or whatever it was, and video conferenced in, and it was really cool. Just hearing him talk. Tim White was also there, and Sean King, and Linda Sarsour, Linda Sarsour. Yeah, and that was everybody that you would know. So, but I was there for Cornel West, and it was amazing. And everybody else, you could tell, was there for Cornel West, and they saved the best for last because I think Cornel spoke last. Tim Wise, you said Tim White. Tim Wise. I did not say White. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Tim Wise, who I've watched a ton of Tim Wise lectures, so I need to chill. But he is terrible on like on Bernie. He's awful. The dude's awful on Bernie. He is not a true leftist. Let's be real. He's just an anti-racism activist, and he should stay in his lane there and just stay just in that fucking lane. But Flash Flood also corrected me on the Waters part. So Roger Waters, great point. But yes, I've seen Cornel West, Nina Turner, and Bernie Sanders all speak live at this point, and I am honored to have done so. I would love to have all of them on the show at someday. You know, I would love to have all of them on the show. I doubt I'll ever get Bernie Sanders on, but I think we could someday get a Nina Turner and Cornel West on here. I think that we could get Nina Turner and Cornel West on the show someday when we grow big enough, when we build a big enough platform. I think that they would they would come on the show. I think Nina Turner, she seems to support some smaller left podcasts and such. Like I said, she follows me on Twitter. I think that we might be able to get her on the show a lot sooner than that. So she's going to be literally one of the first people I reach out to bring on to the show. So totally agree with you. And I would love to see Dr. West in a more intimate setting for sure, or to have a real dialogue with him on the show I would be deeply honored to do. They're all amazing speakers, just great speakers. And love hearing from them. So I hang on to every word of Dr. West, and you'll see me bring him into the conversation countless times watching the show. All right. So okay. All right. Okay. Any more comments, please, to everyone that hasn't done so already? If you're here and you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel and share this stream out. Just share it out. Also, watch the clips when you see them pop up. Make sure you check out the clips. I mean, if you're here watching live, you don't got to watch the clips again, but that's fine. The sad thing is that the more people that click through on the clips, the more people get shown the clip. It's so annoying. If you've already watched this though, and you watch our live stream, it's part of the reason why I might need to start to do the live stream like not live anymore, like record the show like not live anymore, so that people because of the stupid YouTube algorithm. It's so dumb. It's just annoying. I prefer to do it live and chat with the community. So I'm not going to stop that. I was still going to be doing live stuff. But maybe when I record some of the stuff, I record some of the segments. When I first started the show, I used to record the segments offline, like not live, and then post the segments after. So whatever, we'll see what works. But please hit the like button, subscribe, share this out. Really tell your friends, family, people that might be amenable to this messaging. We really need to grow the channel. We are tiny, way too tiny. I'm jealous. I see other leftist platform, like media entities growing a lot faster than I am right now, and I'm jealous. So I want to grow. We want to grow. All of the whole show, the whole community. We need to grow, and I'm not literally, I'm happy for them. I really am happy for them. I love to see, you know, independent left media getting bigger. I just want to make sure that we're following right on that same track and that we're growing. And for whatever reason, I don't know, for the last like month or so, our you know, month or two, maybe it's really slowed down. The growth of the channel. So I know I have been doing a little less content, admittedly. So I'm like I said, we're getting back on track. We're trying to get into the swing of things. Soon enough, I'm going to come out with an actual schedule for when I'm going to do these shows. I know it's probably hard for people when I just pop up from any random days of the week and do the episodes. So I'm going to try to get onto a more consistent schedule, but I don't know that every podcast has something like that. But I think there's a lot of successful ones that do have, you know, like a schedule. I'm on CPT, as they say. Y'all see, I start these episodes late all the damn time because I'm always running to the last minute and trying to fit in more and get more content in there, get more segments in. Still figuring things out. I mean, the show is like truly like 6 months old. We've been doing this thing, so it's not even that crazy. All right, so let's wrap things. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. Really appreciate that. Shout out to our whole Patreon community. Shout out to everyone that's supporting us on Patreon or on Coffee. If you're not doing so already and you can afford to do so, I am at this point freaking begging you to please support the show. We need the financial support, even if it's just $1. If you can only afford $1 a month, we would deeply appreciate it. So please, if you can afford to do so, support the show at coffee.com/radical democracy. There are links in the description box below. So if you just open the description box, click those links to all of our new commenters in here, you know, Flash Flood, Corey, if y'all can afford to do so. If you're not, you know, if only if you can afford to, don't worry. If you can't afford it, I totally understand. We're leftists. We don't want to burden anyone or make anyone feel guilt or anything like that for not being able to afford something, for sure. Totally understand it. But if you can afford to do so, please support the show. We really need, you know, not just the financial backing, but the social proof that people support the show. We need more backers for the show. Just, you know, the more that we have, the more people will look and see and see it as legitimate. It grants it a certain legitimacy. So please support the show. Coffee.com/radical democracy. You can give us a one-time tip, but we really appreciate it if you sign up for monthly donations. Again, for as low as $1 a month. If you sign up for $5 a month or more on Coffee or Patreon, and again, both of those links are in the description box below. If you sign up for $5 a month or more on either one of those platforms, then we will give you access to our Discord server where you can chat with us. You'll see that we've had a really like a super, you know, intense debate. I don't know. It's a really engaging, informative debate. Brian Dew is an economist. He's been published in Jacobin magazine. He's one of our, you know, one of our supporters, one of our comrades, and he is often in there, just going off in there. I'm going to make him a whole new channel. It's just going to be called like Brian, where he can just go off and just do his thing because he's just like, it's filling up the whole damn social thing. I got to start to split up and get more threads so that we can actually like our social thread or yeah, whatever channel in Discord is like not about social stuff anymore. It's just about, we just say everything and everything happens in the social channel. So I need to make that like general and then have a social channel where we just chat and shoot the shit. And it's more social and just like, hey, what's up? What are we doing this weekend? What's everybody up to? How you doing? Just checking in, like that kind of thing. So, what up to X? I see you out there, X. Thank you so much for switching over to Coffee. Shaka. I know I'm not supposed to say shaka, but now that I know what it's called, I just love the word and it's a fun word and I love saying shaka. So shaka. Yes. I see X saying, I see you out there, X. I see you. X says, oh shoot, better cut that mic again. Yep, we're approaching 3.5 hours here, so that mic does need to get cut here. I promise I'm gonna shut up soon. I promise. But thank you to X. Thank you to wait, Brian. It doesn't say it in there. Oh, X and Brian. No, the other one that you just put up had no name in there. It just said shout out to for tipping. I think it's anonymous, right? Yeah. So someone just anonymously tipped us $20 on Coffee. That's freaking amazing. Thank you so much to whoever did that. Please support the show. Support us on Coffee if you can afford to do it. make it happen. You will not regret it. I promise you that. You will not regret it. And we'll give you a shout out on the show, even no matter what you tip. If you sign up to become sign up for a recurring donation, even if it's $1, we will give you a massive shout out on the show. We deeply appreciate it. Most people that have started out by donating $1 a month have upped their donations, because once you're in there and you're really seeing the content and hanging with us and chatting, I think people see the value in it, and it makes you want to support more. So I really urge the folks that are watching that aren't already supporting the show but can afford to do so, please go over there and just drop $1. Do it one time. It'll feel good. It'll make it easier to do it the next time. I know I'm a person that I'm a little hesitant on supporting shows sometimes, or whatever the case is. I sometimes hesitate, but please don't hesitate. Make it happen. Just open up that description box, click those links, and support us there. If you're already on Patreon, sign up on Patreon. But if you're not on Patreon already, please sign up on Coffee, because it gets the more funds directly to us. So we really appreciate that. All right. I think we're going to call it a night here, unless there's more comments that we want to get to.
I just wanted to add, some people have also signed up for more than $1 a month. And then if they need to, they've lowered it to $1 a month, because it's pretty flexible in that way. And on Patreon, it has suggested tiers for like how much a month you could pay to access certain benefits or like Discord community. But on Coffee, because the funds are more directly given to us and you have a little bit more control over the amount that goes directly to us, you can submit any amount. Like you can input like any amount you want to donate per month or one time. It doesn't have to be according to like any of the Patreon tiers. So you could literally donate like $1.69. That's
awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and that's absolutely right. Yeah, some people, if you're donating and then all of a sudden you're like, times are hard right now, I can't afford to. Absolutely. You don't have to feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it. Do not dare apologize to me for it. You know who I'm talking to. You know who you are. Don't you dare apologize for struggling economically or financially and needing to reduce your donation. Don't feel bad about that at all. Don't want anyone feeling guilty or bad about that. There's no reason for you to feel bad about that. We totally understand it. We just appreciate the folks for showing any little bit of support whatsoever that you can. It's just, we appreciate it so damn much. So thank you to everybody. Shout out to our whole Patreon Coffee community. You keep us alive. You keep us motivated to keep going, seriously. So thank you all. And thanks for being here today. We're gonna call it a night here. But we deeply appreciate it. I don't think I'm gonna play the song out at the end anymore, because it adds to the end of the thing, and you already heard it in the beginning. Listen to that dope track by What Up America at the beginning of the show. And shout out to What Up America, as always, another amazing member of our Patreon community, who's been on the show now at least twice. We've had them on the show, and I'm sure they'll be on again. All right. Thank you to everybody. Signing off, Kamali Rose.
I just wanted to add that the only guilt that we will accept is if you're a multimillionaire and up. And we have a tier for that on Patreon. So if you're interested, you can pay a couple thousand. But it's also a joke tier. We also have a rent tier, which is just straight up $1,000 or rent, which is...
No, it's...
Or is it $1,200?
No, it's $2,000.
Oh, it's $2,000?
Is actually.
Oh, yeah, it's $2,000. That's the rent tier. It's low-key a joke, but put it there just in case, anybody want to be generous.
I see Susan Sarandon out there supporting other leftist podcasts. So if millionaires out here supporting,
there's multimillionaires out here. Money. It's a joke, but just in case. We also have another joke tier called Sugar Comrade, which is $69 a month if you're feeling spontaneous. Wink, wink. But that's it.
Nice. All right. Well, that's our show for tonight. Shout out to super producer Tammy for doing all the work to keep this thing going. Cool. Corey Saylor says that they identify as a millionaire. Does that count? There's so many Americans that actually do. identify as millionaires. They call themselves like temporarily embarrassed millionaires. And it's sad to say, but yeah.
You can identify as a millionaire, but don't give any, or don't give too much if it's gonna actually hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
May I suggest sugar comrade tier? Just think about it. Just think about it.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone for being here, for chatting, for all the engaging comments. Really appreciate that. Appreciate everyone from our communities. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that we can call that a wrap. Let's wrap. It's a wrap. All right. Wrap it up. Where's that wrap it up button from the Chappelle skits, right? Wrap it up. All right, we gonna wrap it up, y'all. Yes.